Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and welcome to episode 130 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Today, I'm joined by Microsoft's best lawyer, Lord Cognito. How are you doing, sir?
I'm suiting up today, man. I got to get ready for court. Got to see me in court, you know. yeah, man. It's an interesting week. It's been... Can't say there hasn't been a lot of Xbox news. You can't say that, you know? So, yeah, we're here, man. How you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling pretty good this week, man. I'm very excited to get into a variety of topics because I feel like who cares about the verdict between Xbox and Activision at this point, man? It's all about the slew of information that we have received out of this. Is it a hot take to say that the FTC case was better than PlayStation Showcase?
Yo, bro, I ain't going front.
There are announcements coming out of this, bro. Big announcements. That's insane.
I ain't going front for nosiness, for things we've always wanted to know. I'm sitting there sipping the tea like, Oh, yeah, this the case of the century. I have, you know what I knew it was lit? When Addict, who historically hates anything legal, did you hear what happened in the case? Did you hear what happened in the case? That's what I knew. This is taking on a life of its own. So enjoy it for what it is. At this point, we just go ride out and see what happens. But I'm with you.
Yeah, bro. And salute to Tom Warren of The Verge. I feel like he's done a phenomenal job covering this. He's been my go-to guy this week for everything. So if y'all are not familiar with this man, go follow him on Twitter. He's doing a great job covering the FTC case and everything that's happening there. All the juicy stuff too. So shout out to him because without his coverage, this Defining Duke strip probably would have been a mile shorter. But we have much to get into this week. So salute again to Tom.
Yeah, special thanks to Tom. Good friend. Had him on last word. And also thank you, Tom, for sending the well wishes when I put up my hospitalization situation. So salute to him. Good dude.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin episode 130, shall we? As always, if you're new here, you like what we do, you want to support us, you can get early ad-free access to this show over on patreon.com/laststandmedia. We welcome you there, where every other week we do Defining Duke Ultimate. We're going to be producing Defining Duke Ultimate episode 113 this week, so you can keep an eye out for that and what we're cooking there. But otherwise, you can stay, hang around for free. We're just happy to have you. And let's get into it with a couple of write-ins from the audience, starting with Peebus the Wise, putting some roses at the feet of the Outer Worlds. He writes, "Greetings, fellow Black Rock enthusiasts. I have a gushing, busting, and impressively heavy delivery of flowers for Mr. Matty. Sir, you were 100% correct last week with your pick being the Outer Worlds for Game Pass pick of the week. Coincidentally, I started playing it the day before that episode dropped, and I haven't put it down since. If y'all haven't checked this one out, you are out of touch and need to seek salvation in the Black Rock. You've played the rest, now play the best." So just a reminder for those of you who skipped that section, could not avoid the Outer Worlds 1 and the praise we will give it. Stop sleeping on it. Stop your slander on Avowed. Go remember what they've built. Go play that. Play Murder on Eridanos. Educate yourselves, okay? Thank you.
Talk to him. I like that. Salute the Peebus the Wise. I like the name.
Now, Cog, this one's for you. Matt Brown writes in, "Hi, Constellation Matty and Midnight Sun Cog. I recently picked up Midnight Suns thanks to Cog's glowing review of the game. I am new to this style of turn-based strategy. I played a lot of grid-based strategy games like Fire Emblem and Advance Wars. My question for you guys is, do you have any beginner tips and tricks to get into this kind of game? Or maybe just saying what your go-to team comp was, Cog. Thanks, and have I'm missing one achievement for a game, but it's a multiplayer one kind of day." Thank you, Matt, for writing in. Cog, this is all you, man. It's a Midnight Suns theme question. The marketing continues. When will your bag from 2K arrive? We wonder. And hopefully one day they pay you. But for now, sir, you're going to continue to act as the charitable marketing arm for 2K. So what say you, sir? Your go-to squad? Any tips, tricks, advice?
I would think the first thing I would say is obviously pick your favorite character first. You want to play with someone who you like in the MCU, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing first. But I would say as far as tips, I always start off with, I look at the character decks, and if someone has a move that says quick, I usually try to level that card up so that I can have the extra property. And what I mean by that, quick, is the way Midnight Suns work is you're always going to be overwhelmed. There's always going to be a bunch of millions, and there's going to be key targets that you're going to have to do depending on the mission. When you have quick, you can kill someone instantly and then go again. It doesn't waste a turn. So quick cards, when you see that word, it's very valuable. The other thing I would say is, as far as like, don't sleep on the skill characters, the skill cards and the skill characters. So even though the skill cards may not damage an enemy, they may boost up abilities. They give you, the key is heroism, because your characters may have a lot of powerful moves, but they may cost 4 heroism, right? So it's like if you have other characters or cards that give you skill that either add more cards to your deck or boost your heroism, don't sleep on that. That allows you to do more of the powerful stuff as the battle goes on. And the last thing is, don't sleep on support characters like Doctor Strange. I'm not honest. I'm not like a Doctor Strange guy. But in this game,
Multiverse of Madness, I'm not a Doctor Strange guy. That movie was fire, man.
Bro, I feel you. Like in this game, bro, his ability to boost the defense of the characters, to make your attack stronger, and he has some powerful single DPS kind of moves too. Wolverine is a good ad control. The game plays to the ethos of the characters. Like Blade, you want to make people bleed. He feeds off that. He gets energy off that. Morbius. So everyone, there's kind of like some archetypes that are like tank, skill, kind of thing. But there's some people who fit in different ones with regen. So have fun. Those are the best things. I would say continue. Don't just advance the story for the story. Sometimes take missions and look what the rewards are and build up your base. That's the last thing I would say too. But yeah, man, love that you are in part of the crew now. You're part of the family, Matt Brown. So welcome to Midnight Suns. Good to have you.
I love it, man. Every week we get write-ins about this game. And this game came out 6 months ago now. Like, it's insane to think about, but I'm sure it'll continue all the way until the end of this year. No doubt about it.
The legend Jake Solomon thanked me. I made it. He's like, yo, should I call you Cog, Lord Cog? You out here doing the Lord's work. I said, I appreciate you, man.
Dakota Brown had a really interesting write-in that I thought would be fun to answer, because I know, Cog, you could probably get in on this as well. Hey, Dukes. A very random question for Matty, and no expectations for this to make it into the show. Well, surprise, surprise, Dakota. Welcome. However, I figured I would ask anyways. Matty, you made a comment last week about your health issues and said, it's fine because I don't really drink anyways. I'm pretty sure you don't smoke weed either, based on comments you've made in the past as well. So do you live a sober lifestyle? Have you ever tried any drugs? I'm just curious, and not judging, of course. I just find it fascinating people who have no interest in any kind of substance. I work at a drug treatment program, so I know plenty of people in recovery from substance abuse. That's totally different from being disinterested, in alcohol or drugs, though. So do you have any reasons for this? Are you just stronger than the rest of needing a beer and some weed to relax? Just curious, I've been sober for a week and already miss having a beer kind of day. Dakota, thank you for writing in. I appreciate you recognizing this, just because I wouldn't say like straight edge. Like, yeah, I've had my flirtations in the past with a drink or whatever, but to quite honestly, like I've been surrounded by people who, to put it bluntly, have had problems with these things in the past. And it's been the biggest kind of, I'm going to stay away from this alarm I really needed in life. Even, I say there's no disrespect to anyone who does smoke weed, but even smoking pot, I've seen people just down they go, like motivation, determination. And I think it's because I'm very protective of my sense of self. I do not want anyone, anything contaminating me. And that's not because I think I'm perfect. I just, I'm very holistic. Like I'm not crazy into medicine, for example, because I fear that it'll contaminate all that makes me, me. And, in college, of course, like anyone, I drank a decent amount, but I noticed I started to get extremely fucking depressed. And I was like, oh, I'm never doing that again. And that was it. Like, it did not enhance anything. And so when the doctor told me, like, yeah, you might have vestibular migraine, stop drinking, I was like, I don't drink anyway. It was easy for me. But yeah, it's mostly Dakota fueled by my surroundings. I've grown up in these environments where I've just seen people, family members and so on, just trash their lives over this stuff or make really poor decisions or hurt others. And again, while I'm not perfect, that's the last reason I want to end up hurting someone. I'd rather it be for something else. So just being on the receiving end of that experience is kind of a big motivation for how I became very easily removed from that stuff. But I am sympathetic to people who do struggle with those types of things, or I am accepting of those who do enjoy those things. It's not like you got to live my lifestyle or get the hell out. I try not to be judgmental or anything, but it's just the way I tend to live my life. You know, I'm always the person at like get-togethers who like everyone's like, you want to drink, bro? I'm just like, no, I'm good. Like every time. And they always ask like, why? I'm like, I don't drink. And they just seem fucking baffled by it. They're like,
yeah. When it's my segment, I'll talk about it.
Yeah, go for it. That's all I had to throw out there. But I appreciate you, Dakota, for writing in and asking politely. You know, I'm happy to always answer these types of questions. I don't want to speak for Cog if he is, but you know, I'm always happy to answer these questions and let y'all get to know me a little bit better beyond the realm of Xbox. You know, it's you get to listen to us for 3+ hours a week. The least you can do is know the type of person you're listening to. So it's my pleasure. Thank you for writing in, Dakota. But Cog, anything you want to add on?
This is an interesting question. Shout out to Dakota. I think for me, all right, let's start with the substances, you know what I'm saying, first. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, obviously I've been around in it from the South Bronx. I've seen my fair share of people doing things, moving things, and stuff of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, for me, I never gravitated towards it because I was very athletic. I used to play sports, I used to play basketball, I used to fight. So like for me, that was always an inhibitor. I always want to keep the edge. I want to be the best. So it's like, I felt like all that stuff was going to slow me down, and I'm very risk adverse, and to your point, body adverse. Like anything that I feel that could affect me and do like serious damage, I was not with that, right? Didn't judge them. Now I will say this, in fairness to my substance gang, there are some of my homies who just so wound up that I'm like, bro, you need weed or something. Like you got to bring this down. Like you are just way too much of a live wire.
I have a doctor who's recommending for me. They're telling me because like I got to manage so much shit. They're like, you're wound up. You need to bring your stress down. I'm like, so I'm in a battle right now. We're trying to figure some middle ground out here.
Bro, anxiety. I got homies. I got a lot of anxiety. I got the live wire homies where it's like, yo, you bring them through. And I'm like, bro, you cannot. Like someone says the littlest thing and you're ready to, you know what I'm saying, blow the place up. And I'm like, whoa, calm down. And I got home and like, for them, the substances had a positive effect. And I was like, I like hanging out with you now because you're not like how you used to be. Before, we're not blowing up the club because you had a situation with a chick or a bouncer or whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? So that was my substance experience, right? So, and then the other thing, just to be fully transparent, I remember the time I tried, you know, weed or whatever, it literally had no effect. All my homies are like, yeah.
No effect, fun. Bro.
I'm sitting there like.
I had the opposite effect.
Did you dirty?
I went nuts. Nuts, bro. I was telling someone to stab me. It was bad, bro. Bad.
Check
so
my endurance.
bad.
Check.
Yeah, straight up. I was like, because I remember I touched a wall, a cold, hard wall. And then I touched the couch and I started bugging out because they felt the same. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, yo, someone's got to cut my head off. I was like, this is nuts.
Oh, you hilarious. Oh, you be a funny dude. I already know where you at.
Dude, so all my friends still bring it up.
Oh, that's hilarious. Now, the opposite with the drinking. Now, this is where we may differ a little bit because drinking, first of all, I got a high tolerance. So people that drink love to drink with me because my tolerance is high. Like I could just... And this is when I was skinny, Cog. I've always had that. So you had that part. And then here's the other thing. Like, I'm not a person that like, I could just drink. I don't drink every day. I'm a social drinker. I have to go out. I have to have either drink with a meal. So it's not like I got mad liquor and I'm like, yo, just pounding them back, Bob. I'm just not that guy. But if we go out, you know, I am people consider me a fun drunk, so to speak. Like I'm very life of the party. Yo, what's going on? Bring them over here. So people like to drink with me. And and I will say this, it's the only, not even a pushback, but I know guys like you who are like, yo, chill out. I'm good. I do have this one thing, and it has cost me relationships and friendships. I do have this one caveat. Where I'm like,
lay it on me.
You're supposed to be the homie. You got to do one drink with me. It's a bonding thing for me. It's a brotherhood. Because for me, when we drink...
I would make an exception for you. Don't worry.
And I'm not the guy to be, all right, now we're doing shots. And I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy because I know your tolerance and I know that you're not comfortable. But as a friend or if I'm dating someone, we got to have one so we got to have bonding joint. And then I always... this is the last point I'll say. I do feel alcohol reveals the truth. And some of my most realist, deepest conversations with my best friends, partners, whoever, have come over a nice drink. And you like, you know what? I respect you. Or you learn something. You be like, oh man, I didn't know that. So
Yes.
I'm all for the social drinking. I'm gonna be real. LSN fam, y'all hung out with me when we was in Houston. Y'all know the vibe. You know what I'm saying? And we had some dope conversations. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my people. Oh, it's my man name from Florida. Florida kid, you know who we are. Astro Parrot, Hot. A lot of people came. We was vibing. And we was in the arcade, the barcade joint. So I love that kind of stuff, you know, but again, it's not for everybody. And I would never pressure Matty to be like, yo, now we're going to do 4 and you're going to do fireball with me. And like, nah, I'm not. Don't do that to nobody that don't like to drink like that.
That'd be a funny mental image, though. Cog just forcing a drink down my gullet. Another, bro. Another
one, bro. That's it. I got dudes that tumor. Oh, that's it. Oh, I'm on round 6. Where you at, Cog? I'm like, easy, bro.
It's so funny because I've been around those types of people, and I think they're astounded at, and I don't say this as a flex, but they're astounded as like how little of a fuck I give. Like, and they get offended by it. They're like, "What? You can't? You too cool to drink?" I'm like, "No, I just don't want to drink, man." Like, I apparently I've always had that kind of energy with people, though. There have been people who think like I don't like them just because I'm just like standing there cool in it, and like they think I'm just pissed. It's like,
yeah, social drinking take it personal.
It's the curse of resting Matty face.
Resting Matty face.
I'm a nice guy. Like I love being around people and whatnot. I guess you got to get to know me.
No, I feel you. We all got our thing, man. It's all good.
Thank you for writing it, Dakota. All right, let's talk a little bit about video games. Very short before we begin list, because most of the news came through this FTC court case, truly. Like, as I was combing through, it was just all that. So let's do it. Number 1, IGN has claimed that MGS Master Collection Volume 2 will include Metal Gear Solid 4, 5, and Peace Walker. So this is good because last week we just talked about how Metal Gear Solid 4 could have made its way to Xbox, and it looks like if MGS Volume 1 made its way to Xbox, it should be a safe assumption that Volume 2 make it to Xbox, which means that many people will get to enjoy MGS4 for the first time because it's been trapped on the PS3, but also Xbox fans hopefully will be able to. But what do you make of this, them packaging in MGS5 as well? I found that to be the more surprising one of the Master Collection.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. Look, I just want more people to play it, you know, and from the continuous standpoint of this crazy wild narrative that is Kojima that we love. You know what I'm saying? Look, at the end of the day, they are masterpieces in their own right. And I'm really about that 2 and that 3 though right now. I'm really about that. You know what I'm saying? Those bring distinct memories, but the memory, yeah, because 5 and Peace Walker, they need more exposure. Let's go. I'm all for it.
Yeah, Peace Walker is one that did I play that one? I'm trying to remember. I don't think I did. I think I held off because people said that 5, like Phantom Pain, was very Peace Walker inspired. So I just stayed away. So that'll be one I got to go through. But MGS4, I never got a chance to finish. So that's exciting. I'm very happy to see that they're bringing that one forward and getting it off the PS3 where it's been trapped for a while.
Yes.
Quake 2 remaster seems like it's on the way, likely to be announced at QuakeCon. If I were to wager a guess, it was rated in Korea. Sir, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, we've been hearing about this rumbling for some time. This is no surprise. It's just a matter of that QuakeCon announcement. You know, it needs a remaster. I've never played a Quake game. I've never played it, so I am interested.
Actually, I played Quake Champions.
Oh, you played Champion? Okay.
Yeah, I was there with you for a moment, but yeah, Quake Champions, because they like added cool guest characters in and whatnot. It was fun for a couple hours, but otherwise, Quake, I've never played it either. So I think they did port the first one. That was like a big shadow drop a couple of years ago. So I guess they're going to keep doing them, probably to prepare us for the inevitable id Software Quake game that seems to be rumored. All right, this one's kind of interesting if it ends up being true. I thought it was a nice, tantalizing rumor to sink our teeth into. According to Timor222, who viewers of like my live streams and whatnot may recognize this name. He's a user who frequents various LinkedIn profiles and studio portals to pretty much unearth these typically unseen documents. He'll cold message people on LinkedIn who formerly worked at studios and just ask them questions about the development of products. And he said on his Twitter account that a Machine Games dev who left the team in 2021 is working on an unannounced game there that's not Indiana Jones, which may not come as too much of a surprise. But here's the twist is apparently, according to this person, it's not Wolfenstein 3 either. And that would be very shocking, I feel, because Bethesda promised it a while ago. Obviously, things change. in fairness, it was never fully announced or officially at that. They just said they're going to do it. But the idea that Machine Games is deviating, do you think this has to do with not only the reception to Wolfenstein Youngblood, but maybe kind of like bad taste in their mouth, want to get away from it for a while with how things ended up during that live service era of Bethesda, do something new with Indiana, possibly something else that's different and new, and then maybe get back to Wolfenstein 3?
It's possible. I mean, we've heard, multiple developers say that a lot of times from the games that we want them to continue on with the series, they need a break from. They need to do other things. We obviously know about Indiana Jones, the focus that's going to be there and which platform it will be on. We will discuss and all that other stuff. But I'm not surprised that they would want to work on something, but it is surprising that if this is true, that this is an unannounced game, that there's another unannounced game. That part is very interesting to me. But yeah, we got to see. But for it to not be Wolfenstein 3, I'm not as surprised, I would say.
Really? Yeah, I was kind of surprised by it. I don't know. Maybe I think I'm just hanging too hard on an old Pete Hines quote, though, to be completely frank with myself. So I respect that take, because I was definitely thinking it's got to be Wolfenstein 3. One of the predictions we got wrong heading into the showcase. We thought Machine Games would have to be here. They got to show off what they're doing, and still nothing, which is kind of exciting, but it also could be concerning. We'll see. I imagine Indiana Jones will be shown if this rumor ends up being true. So time will tell. Actually, we'll be talking about Indiana Jones pretty extensively in this episode. Yeah, so fret not. Starfield. There was some controversy on whether or not it would have a disc in its standard edition, but it turns out it shall. I reached out to Bethesda for clarification. They sent me their updated blog post with all the versions. The collector's edition does not come with one still, but the standard edition does. We have a write-in here from Zip Davis. Hello, physically talented Dukes. There was a lot of discourse recently over whether Starfield is getting a disc release. I think the real question is, do you think the game will actually be on disc? Something that scares me is that Starfield ends up being always online and the disc is a coaster. Xbox's treatment of DRM and their physical game stock has really worried me for a while now. Please, Dukes, put an end to my fears. Thanks, and have a delicious blueberry muffin kind of day. So, fortunately, it is coming with a disc, but after Halo Infinite, a lot of physical collectors in the Xbox realm have been scarred because that was a coaster, as Zip Davis put it. That was not the full game there on the disc. And I've had this theory for a while based on absolutely nothing other than Halo Infinite, that the sheer magnitude of Starfield has to come with some concession, and that I feel like that full game will not be on disc. It's a gut thing. It's strictly a gut thing. So, Cog, with that in mind, do you have any rationale behind maybe some of your feelings on the content within the disc on Starfield? Will it fully be there? Will it not?
That's the question. Oh, man. I do lean your way on this, because there's a part of me that's like, are they doing it because they know, one, there will be backlash, that there is, this is a glorified DRM update kind of thing, it's just a conduit to the to the online portion of downloading game. And shout out to Zip Davis, he's it's a legit concern. It's a legit concern. I just think, sadly, this is the reality of this ecosystem. We got to be real about it. A Game Pass-led digital ecosystem that, one half of their consoles is all digital. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how I see them kind of going. So, yeah, if you're going to, put a gun in my head, I'm going to say it will not have the full version, like all of the content. You know what I'm saying? What would be nice is if it has some of it and they don't do the Halo Infinite and it's just unplayable without an online connection type thing to get the license or whatever it is doing on the background. So yeah, that's what I want. I just would like a base version, even if it's patch, 0.5, whatever, of the game, so that if it's offline, you can still play. I'll always champion that. It's just that I have to deal with the reality of Xbox's plans and ecosystem. That's long term. I think it's not in the cards for them.
Agreed. Last little bit here, then we'll talk about what games we're playing. E3 is rumored to have been canceled for 2024 and 2025, according to the LA Tourism Department. However, the ESA president has denied said rumors. Now, it was also revealed that it cost, I think, $6 million to do the last E3 digitally. And so that was a major sunk cost for them, no doubt about it. So do you believe that it's been quietly canceled for the next 2 years as they try to re-strategize once more? And they're just trying to save face for the time being?
I mean, it's very surprising to me that they still, trying to carry on. It was very telling when I was out there. It was very telling. I walked down Figueroa, I walked down that convention hall, and to see it without the band, it did hit different, from a nostalgia standpoint.
Yeah. Oh.
It looked like I was in Fallout 4 and it was like an abandoned mausoleum. Like, bro, or like I was in Fallout, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just in Fallout, you're like, damn, remember when people used to live there? This was a vibrant structure that people from all over the world. I was playing Fallout 3 watching this. I was like, felt like I was in DC. You know what I'm saying? You got to go to the monument quest. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, bro, like it's over. It's over. And the reason why I feel now it's over is because love him or hate him, Jeff has started the tradition of bringing, that showmanship to that stage of Summer Games Fest, right? And he's got all the connections. So it's like we were in the YouTube theater. Everyone was there. Developers were coming up on stage. It was a consolidated thing. And then, internally, say I can talk about this a little bit. I don't get the vibe that Microsoft's doing that anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you've got, it's cost, bro. It's cost. You could control your message. You could do what you want. As a purist, yeah, it makes me sad, but I'm a person, this is going to be the theme of this episode. Like, I'm a person who, even though I may be concerned or sad about the way certain things may be going, I understand the realities of why things are going, and I am accepted of that. And I'm not trying to hold on, you know what I'm saying? Like, but that's just the reality. That's how it is. That's like me trying to hold on to the Walkman. They need to still make it. You know what I'm saying? I was on Constellation just recently, and they laughed at me because I didn't even know the iTouch got discontinued. So I was sitting there, bro, I was messed up, but luckily I was able to find one. It's the only Apple device in my house.
No,
it's the only Apple device in my house. But it goes to show you, I'm one of the holder-ons, and sometimes you got to let go. It's old. People, these kids are using Spotify. I'm still with the old school. You know what I mean? It's a changing of the guard.
Yeah, I think I was one of the people who was definitely holding on to E3 for a while because I thought if they could get it together and really make things a little more cost effective and flexible, host where you want to host, that type of stuff, we could have E3 still. But Summer Games Fest seems to really have taken over, and the Summer Game Days Play Fest, I think is what it's called. Did you go to that?
What's funny is I could have, but I got caught up with some other opportunities that I wanted to take advantage of media-wise for launchinggaming.net. Right. But there was I regret, bro. Tekken 8 was playable.
I feel like you would have told me. Because I asked because it looks like that's sort of the E3 experience. A lot of YouTubers coming through, playing the games, trying them out from all different walks of life. Like I know Juicehead went and he just played Cyberpunk and made a video on it. But then like Jake Baldino made a video of all the stuff he played there and so on and so forth. And it seems like a condensed media focused experience. But I think fans can attend as well, from my understanding. So it seems like a good middle of the road thing, which is what E3 was seeking. So it seems like Jeff and company were a step ahead here. And so they rightfully capitalized on the opportunity that was presented to them as E3 was fumbling the ball. When you really look at it in hindsight, it's once all that data for everyone who went to E3 2019 leaked, that was kind of the kiss of death to me. Like once that kind of security breach happens, there's trust loss. Who wants to, we love games. Who really wants to put risk all of their data getting out there by attending your event? Like that amount of trust loss was destructive.
Absolutely. And we remiss. I shout her out every time I get a chance. I know it's not a popular name to shout out, but shout out to Sophia Darwitz, because I remember that when the leak came out, she brought it to attention. She got vilified for it. And I'm just like, why? This is important information for us to know that the ESA mishandled all of these content creators' personal information. Are we really going to vilify the person who's saying that, this happened? And then when it's verified, now nobody ain't got nothing to say. But no, it was damaging. I know a lot of my colleagues was on that list. I was on that list. I was like, this is scary stuff. Scary stuff.
Yeah, so E3 seemingly gone into the wind, but with Summer Games Fest. And honestly, this summer was a ton of fun. Like everyone showed up. lot of the showcases were interesting at the bare minimum, and I didn't feel like I was missing anything. So if this is going to be the form we get moving into the future, I'm all good with it. Minus Capcom. Capcom, go roll yourself into someone else's show. Please, bro. Do not ever put on another showcase unless you got games to announce. All right, Cog, let's talk about what games we are playing. Finally, I can talk about some because I've been reviewing plenty of things, but sir, I want to hear from you first.
Kind of simple for me. Obviously it's been ROG all day, but finally got back to some good old Destiny. I gotta talk real quick because I got some things to say. So first off, Season of the Deep concluded. This is this season's content. Thematically, it's very cool. Kind of a underwater vibe for the first time. Guardians are going underwater. It's like, what do you call the BioShock suits where you in the man? There's an official name. Big Daddy, yeah. So it's like a picture you going underwater, and there's a mechanic with the seasonal content where you can run out of water, the suit gets pressurized, and you can die. So you have to look for these oxygen bubbles. You're going out, you're going deep within the planet Titan. You're investigating what happened to this planet, and the storyline is actually pretty decent. So, cool. Decent seasonal content. I would just come in and log in on a Tuesday, get my updates to see where this story is going in the grand scheme of things. Because remember, Lightfall, the issue was we felt that was a side diversion and didn't advance the story of the witness and what is happening. Oh boy. So last week, huge reveal. So everybody was like, oh my God, this is a great cutscene. We finally getting some stuff that should have probably been in Lightfall, but we love it. And then the fear was, okay, because this is seasonal content, Bungie, you always remove this, like Matty doesn't like. So what are we going to do? This was a major reveal. So they had to come out with an announcement, Matty, and say, yo, we going to keep it. Now, we still don't know how they going to keep it, but they say we going to keep it. Okay, fine. Then we get to this week. Now, this week was the conclusion of the seasonal story. Yo, they finally, for me, put some major chess pieces on the board, and we're going to have to do something that we didn't want to do, and I love it. Love it. So, mini spoiler, it harkens back to Witch Queen, which I love, which is great. So I'm like, cool, dope. Now let's get to the bad. Bungie, you got to come to the front of the congregation for this. How y'all going to have a cool idea of fishing in Destiny? You can fish in Destiny now. It's 5-6 people, doing the lines. Why they made fishing grindy? Like, bro, there's uncommon fish, there's green, yellow, there's legendary, there's exotic. Then they telling you to get exotic bro. The drop rates are horrid. You were literally spending 3 hours fishing, and then get this, Matty, it's tied to a quest. Right? So if you get these exotic fish, it's tied to a weekly quest. Yo, bro, I'm like, why am I spending 2 hours in this game fishing? Like, and here's the thing that really drives me nuts. They got this mechanic, right? It's called focus fishing. So the more people you supposedly that come fish with you, right, this meter goes up as you collect fish. When the meter keeps going, say, hey, the fish are biting. Hey, the fish are ravenous. Hey, it's a frenzy of fish now, right? So when, again, that's multiple people fishing, everyone's participating. Why the drop rates are not improving when it's at the maximum part of the meter? I'm like, Bungie, what is wrong with you? So that's my issue. Stop grinding everything out. Some things just make fun and let people have what they need to have. So that's what I got to have on that. And I'll talk more about it last word. And then Diablo, man, Diablo. Bro, this story is heating up. This story is really heating up. I am loving what is going on right now. I did the Donan story. Now we're more farther off with Lilith. Should be, I think I'm like 4, like the end of 4, or into 5, act 4 into 5. They told me it's 6 acts, so I'm getting close. I want to wrap this up this week because I'm going to still play and do the end game, but I really wanted to do Final Fantasy 16, but I was like, let me finish Diablo before I jump into Final Fantasy. So I'm that close, but Diablo, I'm absolutely loving you. My sorcerer build is sick. Now I'm going, because he's a bit of a glass cannon, so I went 2 defensive powers. I went the frost, kind of freeze them in place, and I'm doing my ultimate kind of thing, and I got my ice shard. I'm an ice shards dude. Oh, and now when the addiction is starting, I'm getting into my destiny, like my trip. Like I got the ninja suit.
Transmog.
Ooh, bro, the transmog is so lit right now. I am really loving this game. And the reason why I had to redo my build, because I got exposed as a solo player trying to do some harder dungeons, and my build that I had before wasn't it. So I went more defensive. So shout out Diablo. Yo, I got to be real with you, Matty. As a Destiny player, Diablo's I'm just like Diablo's cutting in. Diablo's cutting in. We're gonna see how long it lasted. Right now, I'm having a fling. I'm having an affair. I admit, I am cheating. There's full, my eyes are averted. I see something beautiful. It's nice. It's new. It's fresh, and I'm here. Right, Destiny. I see you on Tuesday. That's our little day. We'll reset. But right now, so we gotta see. I'll see how long it lasts. But I'm really having a good time with Diablo, man.
Awesome. No, yeah, it's great. I'm actually going to wrap it up this week. Finally,
yes.
I was at the end of my playthrough when 3 games I had to review dropped into my lap. So
let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
That's what I'm here for.
Let's start with Final Fantasy 16. We had a write-in for this one. RK128 writes, "Hello, Icon Dukes. Over 20 or so hours into Final Fantasy 16 and really loving it. But I have to give you your roses, Matty, on your review of the game. It was one of the more critical ones, highlighting how it's less of a JRPG and more of a character action game with Final Fantasy brand name on it. But how you went about it I can't read. It was much more fair than other critical reviews. Others, like Skill Ups, make the game sound like complete trash when it's just trying to do something different than the typical Final Fantasy experience. Was it hard balancing your criticisms with what the game genuinely does well? Have a Sonic could have been the Microsoft mascot instead of Crash kind of day." I actually thought Skill Ups' review was great. We talked about our respective reviews after both of ours went live. So I got my hands on 16, and it was definitely to answer your question, RK, the review actually wasn't super challenging to balance my criticisms with what the game does right, only because I was very much in a fortunate position of, on Retro Rebound, I have flown off the handle on Final Fantasy in the past and definitely got blasted for it. Doesn't matter, because I think I was still speaking the truth. Like I was cranking on Final Fantasy X, and I realized how many "you don't get it, bros" are in the Final Fantasy audience. And so I still pay attention to that type of feedback. It doesn't mean it's going to change my opinion, but I'll think about how I want to present my opinion better next time. And so with 16, I knew, all right, I'm not in love with this game, but it's not doing something bad. And I know a lot of Final Fantasy players are out for that type of reviewer who's like, yeah, it just sucks, bro. I didn't like it, because then you just don't get it. So posing my thoughts really wasn't too much of a challenge, because I had the benefit of experience. We've talked about Final Fantasy 6, 9, 10, 13, 13.2 on Retro Rebound. So I have a lot of experience interacting with the community under my belt. So I was kind of familiar with how I needed to communicate my thoughts. And also with that history, like many people out there who have, by the way, far more history with the series than I think you get an intimate relationship with it. You understand what it does right, what it does wrong, what are the tropes, what aren't the tropes, what's different, what's not, and so on and so forth. So it was definitely one of the easier reviews in that regard. Actually, one of the more difficult reviews I had to do was one that I'm currently barred from talking about by a day. So we'll talk about it next week. But one of my favorites of the year. I cannot wait to talk about it. But Final Fantasy 16 did not mesh well with me. But that doesn't mean it's a bad video game by any stretch of the imagination. Because the way and this is always the case with reviews, but I think doubly so with my 16 review, was like, what I'm talking about sounds good, and you're like, I'd be into that, then you probably should go get it. But for me, 16 was reminiscent of some of the better parts of Final Fantasy, like the politically intriguing plot of 12. Even like the hunts in 12 are here in 16. Like there's a lot of Final Fantasy 12 energy, which has slowly become one of my favorites. So I like those aspects of it. But then there are things like the corridor-ridden nature of 13. And I say that as a 13 fan. Like this game is... Some people are like, oh, I want a linear game. I mean, I don't think you know what I mean when I say hallways and hallways and hallways. Even when you're in the wilderness, they've turned them into hallways. Fortunately, the game does open up after, I'd say, about like the 10th hour. But even then, in between some of those zones, hallways, more hallways. Again, this is where I say it's not a bad thing. We have a plethora of open world games. You don't need more. Many of you are probably like, that sounds great to me. but it's extremely limiting where sometimes I want to go off and just do a little something else. Even the most linear games nowadays let you go off and do a little something else. And this game just never really had that. What's up?
Question: when you say hallways, I gotta be clear. Like you're saying that it's just limiting, it's constricting you to a specific path as opposed to just opening it up, or like legit hallways, indoor hallways.
Yeah, like there are legit just hallways in a lot of the stretches of the game. However, it's also very limited in its exploration, where a key component of Final Fantasy is like unlocking new spells, skills, loot. And because this game is scarcely an RPG, which is, I think, one of the biggest sins of the game, some people won't care. But because it's scarcely an RPG, there's no meaningful exploration here. It's just an action game, which again, some people will go, that sounds great to me. Again, that's why you should look into it. But for me, I wasn't looking for just Devil May Cry Final Fantasy. Like I was hoping, I can't believe I'm saying this, more elements of Final Fantasy were here in 16. And what is here is a really interesting plot. And I'd say the opening act, the middle act, I think it slows its pacing quite a bit, but still stays political as it ebbs into this almost like Kingdom Hearts ass territory where I'm just like, what happened? And so it's to me, I just feel like this is a game where I knew I would get like the brunt of some people. Like my like to dislike ratio is typically 95, 97% on my videos. My review is at like 81. So I knew, like, just because of the nature of being an Xbox channel, not loving the game, being the outlier alongside a small handful of reviewers, I knew I'd receive the ire of some people. I've done this enough times to know when I'm going to piss people off. However, I think once people start wrapping this game up, I expect some more retroactive, maybe not as good as I thought, but still a good game. For me, it was just one of those things where the RPG element stripped out of a Final Fantasy game is pretty tough for me to forgive. Doesn't make it bad. And I think it's almost like if it had a different name, like Strangers of Paradise came out, which funny enough is more of an RPG than Final Fantasy 16. But also just the narrative lost its luster for me. The acting is phenomenal, though. Really elevates the big moments. I mean, if you play the demo, y'all already saw what I'm talking about. But beyond that, it continues to be very strong. But I think it just the narrative loses a ton of focus, and the gameplay can't sustain those trumps through corridors. And when it opens up, it can be enjoyable. And what I like is it can be as short or as long as you kind of want. Like you can spend 70 hours in 16. You could do what I did and spend like 25, 30 and just mainline the story. Cause last thing I'll say, side quests blow in this game. And I got to be blunt about that because it's not just Final Fantasy, and that's the problem. Like we have a side quest problem in our industry. Like the side quests are getting lazy. They're not thought provoking in any way, shape, or form. And I get we're limited in what we can do, but I'm not going to hear any excuses on why there's no attempt to tell an interesting story. And that's because you can feel, and I know a lot of people love Yoshi P, you can feel kind of like you did with Dragon Age Inquisition, the MMO like influence of its game director over the product, as in the side quests are very much like you catch them on the way to a thing. And they're very much nothing like, hey, kill this mob on your way to the next town, or pick up this piece of wood and bring it back to me. Just boring, uninventive shit like that I just can't excuse. So not just a 16 problem, but it doesn't make the quality of the product any better. So for me, summarize it, hit or miss story, gameplay. By the way, the enemy variety doesn't do enough to make it, to me, interesting. It's very flashy, and it can be fun in the early going, but otherwise it doesn't sustain what I think is overall like an inferior product for the most part. So I wasn't in love with 16, but it's not a bad game. And a lot of what I said may sound good to you. And that's why it shouldn't be avoided. It's not like it's, again, awful. It's just not my cup of tea, personally.
Okay. No, that's fair. And it seems to be, I'm glad you talked about this. I'm looking forward to hear this from you, because I know right now there's a civil war going on. There's a civil war. Oh, yeah, bro. The traditionalist, the Final Fantasy traditionalist versus where it's at right now. And this, story and, graphical fidelity. And some people are taking to the change and say, you know what, I'm okay with it. And some people are like, nah, this ain't Final Fantasy to me. So I'm very curious, you kind of the way you broke it down.
I just think Final Fantasy VII Remake just gets it. I do. I just think it gets it. It has the production values of 16, better in some areas, worse in some areas. I'm talking about Chapter 13 when you're climbing that big ladder and you see that PNG in the back. I remember that when I was reviewing. I was like, "What the?" Like I squinted at my TV. I was like, "What am I fucking looking at right now?" So some moments it's not as good looking, but it manages to. It doesn't have to be turn-based, but it does hold on to some of the turn-based elements while being an action game. It has party members, by the way. Something else 16 is lacking. So, yeah, man, I just think the 7 remake is on the incline for me in the terms of my opinion of it. I always loved it, but if they can really nail Rebirth and whatever comes after it,
right. That'll be the key.
It's going to be something special. But yeah, even if you remove the comparisons, I just wasn't crazy about what 16 was doing.
Fair enough.
Unfortunately, I have to stay negative. I would really love to spice things up, talk about something I'm enjoying, but let's get into the other game I was reviewing, AEW Fight Forever.
Oh, no.
We got to write in here from Chocomat12. Hey, Dukes, I hope both of you are well. Just wanted to know if you were both picking up AEW Fight Forever day one. If not, what are your thoughts on the preview so far? I don't think I've been so excited for a wrestling game in such a long time. Can't wait to have that No Mercy like gameplay back and play as my boy, Hangman Adam Page. Take care and keep up the great work. Thank you for writing in, Choco Matt.
Oh no, the deep sigh with the head down. No, Matty, no.
You know how much this hurts me because if anybody has picked up on the occasional drops here on Duke, I love AEW. I watch my Duke tradition. What I will be doing tonight as we review this or record this, we will finish this episode and my Wednesday night tradition. I order a little takeout, a little treat yourself. Hey, you worked hard, and I watch AEW Dynamite every Wednesday night. This is my ritual. And now I don't do the takeout part, but every Saturday night I get to watch a little Collision now. I have been a day oneer for this product, legitimately. Like I remember watching the first Double or Nothing and being like, I love what Cody Rhodes, Dustin Rhodes are doing here. I'm all in on this. And I've never looked back. I've barely missed an episode. So naturally, when they announced a video game, so excited about it because AEW's, I think, real big push in the industry has been because it's competition in a space without really any competition. It's just WWE. And I think they needed someone to go up against them that was doing something a little different and make WWE feel the heat a bit. Obviously, they're still pulling in 1 to 2 million viewers per show. They're going to do just fine. But AEW, they define themselves as the revolution. And so what's exciting about a new wrestling game is, okay, now we got a revolution in the wrestling game genre. We don't just have WWE and things like Pro Fire Wrestling or WrestleQuest, these random indie games. We get like an actual roster filled with known characters that is tied to a brand, a new one at that. So AEW Fight Forever, not good. Not good.
No.
And the wrestling is acceptable, but I really got to lean into this career mode, which is just a disgrace, man. Okay, so I grew up playing like the SmackDown versus Raw career modes, which I thought were really fun because you got to make choices as you went through them. What titles do you want to challenge for when you rise up the ranks? What storylines do you get enveloped in? Do you want to go heel or not? I just love the choice-centric nature of those career modes, and they weren't overly complex. It was just this thing in between that served as a conduit to getting you into the ring and like what match type you were going to have. So AEW Fight Forever, when you go into their Road to the Elite mode, which is their career mode, you're going to create your own character. I made a character based off Light Yagami who's like jacked. So he dropped the death note and started dropping power bombs is what I said in my review. And you start off your career, and what happens is you the first opening cutscene, you immediately get that feeling. You're like, oh, fuck, this is low budget, man. It's just you in this shoddy looking gym. And I'm not talking about shoddy in the terms of like the equipment there. I'm talking about the production value here. Awful. So right away, I'm just going, all right, I already know this is not a visual $60 title. And as an AEW fan, I'm a lurker is what I call it. So after the show, I'll read the comments on Instagram, Twitter. I'm like way too invested in it. I'll go on Reddit and I just read what people have to say.
Love it.
I've been watching these fucking people try to will into existence that AEW is a deliberately arcadey looking game. Like, oh, it's going for the no mercy stuff. Choco Matt said it. Everyone's been saying that. Oh, they're going for no mercy. It's like, no, the game just looks like shit. Like, that's all there is to it. And that's the thing, man. I say as an AEW lover, this game looks bad. It looks horrible. And the first cutscene is very indicative of that. So you get the call from TK. He's like, hey, man, would love to sign you on with AEW. All right. So the kid's got to start to his career. Week 1 shows up on the menu. You get to do a number of things. You get to go out to eat. So you eat in all these different states you're traveling to. This rejuvenates your energy. So you can do what? Go to the gym, get a lift in. You can choose different tiers of the lifts you want to get in, a light workout, medium workout, heavy workout. You can risk injuring yourself in the gym, but you'll get more points the more intense your workout is, because then you'll go into this little kind of RPG-like mode. This is the best part. You'll spend skill points on moves, your hand attacks versus your kicking attacks, grapple attacks, movement speed. And you'll gradually elevate, because what they want you to do is finish your road to the elite, and then you'll challenge the main roster in the exhibition mode. So it's got like a good idea there. But not only does it kind of fall apart because the roster you're training to fight is the one you're fighting in the fucking road to elite, but dude, the storylines are so bad. All right, so here's an example, y'all. Ready for this one? I am not kidding when I say this. There's no, oh, he left a detail out. Here we go. I start my story mode off in an airport, and there comes Malachi Black. He's like, oh, you lost your luggage. By the way, no voice cutscenes. Okay, fine. I can live with that. But very awkward looking cutscenes. It's like, oh, you lost your luggage. That's a shame. Hey, we should tag team wrestle. Okay. So let's do it. So from week to week in what's blocks leading up to the pay-per-view, you're fighting tag team matches alongside Malachi Black. And the intros to some of these matches, like the voice acting that's there, like JR, I love JR, Jim Ross, for those who don't know, like iconic wrestling commentator.
Legend.
And it's like, listen, like he's reading off the paper. Like if I'm reading my script off Defining Duke here, like let's say I read Choco Matt's right and like, hey, Dukes, I hope both of you are well. Like, God, like it's that type of writing. Yeah, like just holding the paper. And everyone on the roster does this. So you lead into these matches, you fight. We'll talk about the wrestling in a little bit. Eventually, the story continues on, and Malachi Black and we win the tag team championship out of just nowhere. Like one week, it's just like, oh, you're fighting for the tag team championship at the pay-per-view. No setup, no like cutscene telling you that. Just you're fighting for the tag team championship. I'm like, all right. So right there, I learned in my first story arc, I don't just get to choose what I want to challenge for. I couldn't deny Malachi Black from being my partner. I had to be his partner. I'm like, okay. Maybe they got something here. So we win the belts. The cutscene plays and they're like, yeah, this is an unlikely tag team championship. Then Malachi Black grabs the mic. He starts talking to me and he's like, by the way, it was me who stole your luggage. No hard feelings, right? And my guy super kicks him and knocks his ass out and leaves the ring with the belt on his shoulder. And they're like, I guess there are hard feelings, is what JR said after that. And then the arc ends. Like, I don't have the belt anymore. Malachi Black isn't like chasing me around because I betrayed him. I couldn't choose to forgive him. Like, nothing. And then it's on to the next arc. The next arc is even more funny. Adam Page wants to team up with me. Another fucking tag team arc. Okay. Thunder Rosa comes in during a press conference, a woman wrestler, and power bombs me through a table because I talked to Adam Page, which again, no choice in all this. She fucking throws me through a table, and then it turns out that Adam Page and her are friends, and they team up against me in a handicap match, and then I lose, and the arc's over. Like this is the road to the elite. It's an awful career mode. It makes no sense, and it looks bad. The traveling aspect isn't well realized. I just like the RPG elements, honestly. Funny, right? That's what I was complaining was missing in 16. So you might see a trend here. I do like that. But oh my God, this road to the elite mode is embarrassing. And it's because the match types aren't well realized here. Like there's so much that makes AEW unique. There's no steel cage matches, no blood and guts, no stadium stampede, though that was leaked. There's no anything that makes this brand unique in the terms of match types. It's just missing here. And so Fight Forever is going to be a game they're going to update over time. So what I said in my review was, look, if you are interested in AEW like me, wait for a sale. Wait, till this game gets obviously multiple updates with new characters on the roster, with new matches added in. Let it be fixed. And when it's like half off this coming holiday, I'm sure it'll be more worth it. But right now it's not, because the wrestling, I'll just say that is fun at times. It's very bloody, which can get kind of cool. It's momentum based. Like you'll build up this momentum meter and you'll activate a finisher. And if your opponent's momentum is low, it's not like a WWE where, you damage parts of their body till they're all red and then just you pin them. With this, it's very much like you could be losing and start taunting and like knocking them out and gaining momentum, much like No Mercy. So, all
right. So we got the core gameplay. We got the core.
Core gameplay is respectable. It's respectable. Okay. It's a little buggy, a little glitchy, and it overall works as that. That's like the core of the game. Wrestlers feel different, like body types, moves can only be applied to specific wrestlers. So there's uniqueness in the cast. So that's nice. But yeah, just dude, the career mode is bad. The match types are lacking. And so it's a very bare bones product, I feel, for 60. Like you just have that. You have the exhibition, all the modes you can do there, like your 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3 or triple threat, barbed wire, death match. And then you've got your road to the elite. And that's it. And the arenas, oh my God, the arenas are fucking empty, dude. It's insane. Oh, no. The first 2 rows have an audience, but if like you do a suplex and they do a replay of it, you'll see the whole ass arena is just black. Like no one is here, man. No one is here. There's not even seats. It's just
dark match.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. And I already know fans are going to make jokes like, oh, it's just like their shows in real life, bro. Yeah, I already know that's
WWE fanboys going to come in on that.
Bro, I've seen the comments. I know how they roll. WWE fans are eating good this week, seeing that 64 on Metacritic. They're like, oh, let's go.
Oh, no, the bad is in the 60s?
Yeah. I am not the only one who was not impressed with this game.
Damn. I was pulling for it, man. I mean, hopefully this is the foundational, to something that they can continue to add on. And look, the budgets, we know the scale is not the same, versus, WWE as far as the budget. But I am hopeful that you said that when you described the core gameplay, though, like the actual fighting, I love the No Mercy, which was very spirit, taunt-based, and momentum-based. And obviously abilities played a role in it, but I actually like that because I always felt like there was a chance to come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that gives me hope. But yeah, to the other things, there's that career mode sounds.
I just feel as a huge AEW fan, I can't hand you this game and be like, play this. This is why I love this brand. It's like, I'm just going to tell people, as I always would, go watch the show. But yeah, this game needs updates in terms of bug fixes. It needs updates for match types. It needs updates to somehow figure whatever the hell out they want to do with this career mode, if that's ever going to be a thing they do. And then hopefully come this holiday, it may be more worth it. But right now, absolutely do not pick it up day one. It's just not worth it.
Fair enough.
All right. Let's get into some warm-up questions, shall we? Ryder Patterson writes in, howdy, Dukes. I recently went from interested in Starfield to being incredibly excited and impatient for it following that excellent direct. The problem with that is that I'm looking forward to it so much that it's making it hard for me to enjoy any other games in the meantime. I've been bouncing from game to game on Game Pass, but nothing can scratch this very specific itch I've developed. I'm even struggling to finish the main story of Tears of the Kingdom, which just a few short weeks ago I was considering my shoe-in for Game of the Year. Have either of you experienced anything similar? Any wisdom to impart? Thanks for the great content and have maybe it's time for yet another run of Mass Effect kind of day. Ryder is not alone on this. I have seen a lot of people say this. You're pointing to yourself, so sound off. You're in the same boat?
It's tough, man, because you try to remove your bias, but you just got to be honest with what excites you. When I see new things, different things, and then in a genre that I love, in sci-fi, like it's hard for me not to look at the Starfield Twitter account every day. It's hard for me not to like watch your updates on any new information when you put out a video. Like I just came from, shout out to King. He had me go to the he's part of a huge statue community, comics.
I saw the pictures.
That. Yeah, like awesome. So it was cool. They're awesome, man. We do like an annual get together of all the biggest content creators. It's so awesome. Dope, bro. It's so dope. And one of this dude's house. It's like amazing. He's got this crazy collection. He's got these statues of literally NASA, the first landing on the moon.
Wow.
And he's got signed by like these statues replicate the exact poses what they were doing, the astronauts were doing. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I want to play Starfield. Like, I see in my mind, that's a jetpack behind him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm there. I can't wait. And it's just, luckily, what saves me is my looter shooter MMO. So Diablo and Destiny kind of holding me down. But it is hard right now for the single player game because to me, it represents what No Man's Sky could have been. What I got excited about No Man's Sky was, okay, you go to planet, the universe. So it's just like, man, this is like No Man's Sky, Mass Effect, and Elder Scrolls in one. And nothing seems to be able to satiate that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm with Ryder. Look, Tears of the Kingdom is amazing. I'm not going to take nothing away from it. But it's just like, after seeing Starfield, already in my mind, long as they execute, I already know what my game of the year is.
Oh, you're making a call.
I already know. They got to execute, though. They got to execute. But I know if it does what it says it does, and there's no BS, right? I know I'm going to live in that game. That's why I was mad at Cyberpunk. I was like, damn, Cyberpunk, why are you doing this to me? Like, no, I want to play you, but come on. But you know what I'm saying? That's what I know I love a game. That's what I know. Now, again, we'll see what happens. But I am struggling. Nothing has, look, bro, after that direct, I tell people all the time, like you even said it, like that was one of the greatest reveals of a game ever. Like no BS. Like it was that impressive to me, you know? So, and I'm a skill tree guy. I'm everything. So I'm in that boat right now. I'm trying to be open-minded. The other thing, obviously, Spider-Man's still coming. Obviously Final Fantasy 16 is here. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be fair to get that, done. But nothing's just gonna be real. Nothing has excited me more than stuff. Nothing. Period.
Yeah, I agree. In the latter part of the year, you know what I know is because there are games that I've been so excited for years that have just become casualties, like Baldur's Gate 3. Dude, I hate that game is coming out so close to Starfield because I know I'm not going to have that done anywhere close to the point I want it to be for when Starfield drops, unless I get it insanely early, which I'd be very blessed to have had that. But even if Starfield, just the second it comes around, every other game is dead to me. I just know it. And I've been lucky that games that I've been very excited for a while are coming out at the front half of the year. Like Dead Space Remake really delivered, right? Octopath's front of the year. The game I'm reviewing just in the front half of the year. So a lot of stuff I was really excited for is there. It's now I'm entering the July gap where like I'm not picking up. I think the only game I can think of note is Pikmin 4, Exoprimal maybe. I'm not picking these games up. So for me, it's like I just have this gap and then it's August and that's like we're now in Starfield range. So I'm right there with you. I get it. Like that game has a palpable, tangible excitement unlike really anything else. And I had this with Fallout 4. I remember after I played and almost platinumed Arkham Knight, I was just kind of like a lost little puppy waiting for Fallout 4 to come out. I went and played Fallout 3, 2, 1, New Vegas. Like I Platinum 3 after that. Like I just did everything Fallout. I played Fallout Dust. I put Fallout everything because I was like, this will at least scratch some type of itch for me. But Starfield, the problem is no one's doing what Starfield's doing. So there is no scratch there. I mean, I know people say, well, go play No Man's Sky. Come, get real. Come on.
They expose themselves when they say that.
Yeah, like, come on. Complete. It's even if it has the same mining and stuff, which it does, the RPG elements are why people are excited. It's the questing, the companions, the traveling of the galaxy. It's a Bethesda game. Todd Howard A-team on the job. It's just so much to be excited about. And there's nothing in range that's doing what they're doing. And it's the fact that when they gave us that date, we waited a long time. But when they gave us the official date, we were 3 months out, man. 3 months. Or 4, I think. That's crazy, man. That's really close. Like we're right in spitting distance where it's almost surreal. So Ryder, you're not alone. But Cog, is there any wisdom as someone who's in that same position? anything you could suggest to dig Ryder out of this hole, and I'm sure many others.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. For me, that's why you got to have that secondary genre like that. Again, for me, it's right now. Thankfully, Diablo's keeping me distracted. I'm in a nice pocket with that. Obviously, still have my Destiny stuff. And then there's going to be the smaller games along the way in conjunction with, we still got time, right? So I would still say, look, if there's some single player games you have your interest on, like Final Fantasy 16 for me is one of them. If we talk about on the Xbox side, you know what I mean? I would say this is the time probably to hit your backlog. He mentioned Mass Effect, you know what I'm saying, that, but he's already probably done it. He's another Mass Effect one kind of a day. So he kind of already done it.
Not a bad idea. That might be the closest you get to Starfield, like travel in the galaxy, RPG, sci-fi.
RPG. Yeah. And look, if you really want just a little baby simulation of hey, No Man's Sky has been making tremendous updates since, you know what I mean? If you just want to walk around, you want to, you know what I'm saying, see what the universe holds for you without much of a narrative to it. But hey, it is what it is. But it's tough. It's tough, especially tough if you like that genre, because there's nothing else like it. And I get that pain. So backlog time, man. Try some genres you haven't tried before, just to keep a nice distraction.
Yeah. I look at it, Ryder, a lot like, for me, baseball or hockey, like you have a favorite team in the East, and then when they're not on, you got to have a favorite team in the West, I feel, to just enjoy the sport more, right? So you can have games on when you're just in the mood, because one of the two will likely be in that cycle and available on your television. So what Cog said is extremely poignant. Like, find a new genre that's very different from Starfield and explore that. For me, I know Starfield will never scratch any form of JRPG itch for me. So I'm like really putting my shoulder into JRPGs lately. Like, even though I'm lining them up and knocking them down, got another one on the way, man. So it's like, I'm just going to keep going through them. That's probably going to be my baby. I want to do Disco Elysium, Midnight Suns. Those are in my backlog. So I think it's finally time for those ahead of the storm of games. So yeah, y'all, like, I just think, if you're stuck like Cog is, or like I am to a degree, go in the opposite direction. Don't go for, I would say, Mass Effect isn't a bad idea. No Man's Sky isn't a bad idea, but I would almost say don't go for the similarity. You'll just kind of just be like, this ain't the same, right?
This is the value meal version.
Yeah, great value. The great value Starfield experience. Thank you for writing in, Ryder. All right, David B is our next write, and then we'll get into the FTC court case highlight reel, as I like to call it. David writes, "Hi, Matty and Cog. Would love to get your perspective on some of the upcoming games and the likes of Obsidian, Compulsion, Ninja Theory, and In Exile. Do you think they might fail to reach critical mass due to the lack of scope? The teams making them are still quite small in size, and I'm a little bit concerned that they may not lead to the kind of blockbuster titles non-core gamers might be expecting from Xbox's new studios. I wondered if you had any thoughts about that. Thanks a lot." I think this is a good time for this question to be asked because of, companies like Compulsion, seemingly tighter knit title. You see something like Avowed being compared to the scale and scope of KOTOR 2 and Outer Worlds, which sounds great to us, but will that speak to the non-hardcore gamer, the person who's looking for the blockbusters? Obviously we're shooting from the hip here, so it's kind of anybody's guess, but do you think there's a marketability to these games? I think something like Ninja Theory, we obviously know the answer to, but for the rest, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I think there's some validity to that, but I definitely don't think Ninja Theory applies at all. Like, I think Ninja Theory is on the cusp to blow, and I that's why I'm so hard on them, right? Because I know what that can do to a non-hardcore gamer when they see something like that. I think Obsidian and In Exile specifically, as long as they deliver quality and they're in that 90 meta or that high 80 meta, that they'll have the conversation and the respect from gamers, they don't have nothing to worry about either. Now, I am not going to say worried, but I am concerned. I'm on Compulsion only because, one, the scope is smaller, and then it is a very specific thing they're going for. They're going for a very specific pocket that really hasn't been done. So to me, there's more pressure because if you execute, yes, the victor goes to spoils. But if you don't, then it's like, oh, well, most people wasn't going to try that game anyway, kind of vibe from the masses. So I do worry about them because I'm pulling really, really hard for South of Midnight. And I think that I think at the end of the day, these games just got to review well. I'm going to be very consistent with that. As long as they review well and word of mouth gets out, that's what matters to being with Xbox Game Studios and on a service like Game Pass. So that's where I'm going with it. Ninja Theory has it the easiest. They've already had the major explode. They had kind of their breakthrough already. Hellblade 2 is an extension of it, thus it doesn't qualify for Just One as a sequel. Mm-hmm. But it's still Just One energy, which everyone loves and we all welcome. And I think they are going to have the easier time if they score high. I will say that.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned. Like the Outer Worlds in 2021 sold over 4 million copies. Mm-hmm. So I think Avowed, if it looks like Skyrim in the least, and it's that same Obsidian quality, should eclipse that number pretty easily over time. Things like Hellblade, I think, are going to be very marketable. And Xbox seems to want to have this sort of massive tentpole in every type of genre. So I personally am not too worried because they're achieving their goal of diversity, if you will, genre diversity, and having major first-party studios working within those to varying degrees. So to me, the only one that I think would be a major question mark in the terms of marketing is compulsion. I'm just very curious how people are going to receive the game given the social themes it's going to challenge. And I'm also interested in seeing if the art style is going to convey something to people. And we got to see what the gameplay is like. But that's the one that we always talk about them as the X factor in a way. But In Exile, I'm not concerned about at all. I think Clockwork Revolution will end up being their best-selling game. I mean, I know it's not saying much to some people because they've made like more crunchy niche RPGs, but I think Clockwork Revolution will put them on the map big time. So I think that'll be a win for them because if what Xbox has said about Bethesda, for example, is anything to measure their next move by, they just wanted Starfield to be, and I know Just is saying very little here because, for example, Skyrim has in its lifetime sold, I think like it's made like 60 million or something like that. So pretty insane numbers there. But Xbox said they wanted Starfield to be Bethesda's most played game yet. So I imagine that rule applies to various other studios. And if they're just rating it by play, they even talked about it with Redfall, it's getting, quote, good play. Then, yeah, I think you're probably going to see a similar approach to all these other teams, which are set up for success in that case, for sure, with Game Pass only growing. Mm-hmm. Number 1, FTC court case. We have much to discuss. We'll be here for a while, so get cozy. We're going to do this one by one. That's how I organized it here. We have almost 20 items that popped out of this court case here that I have put into a list. We're not going to read them all at once and then decide what we want to talk about. We're just going to go one by one in order of what I thought would be cool as hell to talk about versus like, oh, interesting tidbits. So let's do it, shall we? Number 1, Microsoft tried purchasing Zynga. They were also looking at acquiring Sega and Bungie, according to internal emails and documents that have now been redacted. Phil had pitched the idea of acquiring Sega to Satya Nadella, and furthermore, an M&A watch list identified multiple other targets for Xbox, being Thunderful, Supergiant Games, Niantic, Playrix, IO Interactive, Remedy, Crytek, Playdead, People Can Fly, Larian Studios, 11-Bit Studios, Rebellion, Paradox Interactive, Bohemia Interactive, Manticore Games, and Scopely. Anthony A. writes in, hello, gentlemen. The FTC versus Microsoft court case has released a cornucopia of behind-the-scenes communications between the Microsoft executives. What does Lord Matty Plays and Lord Acquisition, aka the Sega Kid, think of Phil emailing Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and CFO Amy Hood about acquiring Sega? Also, it appears Bungie, IO Interactive, as well as Zynga were targets too. Big Phil Spencer is not messing around. As always, thank you for making the best Xbox-centric podcast, Anthony A. Thank you, Anthony. We appreciate you.
Love.
Are you ready for the first victory lap for Defining Duke? It's here. It's here. The first of the episode, I should say. Sega, man. Sega, Cog. I feel like this is all the Sega Kid of the show.
Yeah, this resonates a lot. Obviously, as Lord Acquisition, who I'm going to stay on that square, this is something that made sense. It always made sense to me. Sega, the relationship has always been there. I've always felt that Xbox represented a home for wayward Sega youth that had no home to go to once they fell under. And look, their portfolio satisfies a lot of needs. You know what I mean? We talked about as far as legacy IP. We talk about the Japanese market. We talk about even some mobile things, and then we know that Sega kind of has made themselves sexy for acquisition as far as the pachinko division and separating and streamlining themselves. I've always said it made sense. Yes, selfishly as a Sega fan, as a Sega kid, it's a dream come true, right? It's the biggest smile you'll ever hear. But what warmed me as Lord Acquisition was to know that Phil's felt the same way, that Phil looked at the value proposition, and I was told, you can never acquire a Japanese company. Oh, I was ever told, that, nothing, their relationship is only, cloud-based and so on and so forth. But now we have the tangible proof. So yes, I'm going to talk by talk. You know what I'm saying? And
Do it,
let
bro.
people,
Yeah, hell yeah.
let people know that I knew what I was talking about in this sense. It makes sense. And, the other thing I will say, what was interesting though, Matty, I don't know if you caught this part. They talked about if the acquisition was to happen, that the games would remain multi-plat. So it would kind of operate like how Bungie is with Sony, in the sense that, yes, Sony acquired Bungie, but Bungie made it very clear, Marathon, all their games will still go everywhere. And I think that may have been the concession from a Sega in the Japanese market, saying like, hey, you're not going to restrict us that we can't make on PlayStation, Nintendo anymore. But the cool thing is going back and getting those old IPs that maybe Xbox would have missed out on. Obviously, Xbox has the advantage of Game Pass. So yeah, that was huge. And then with Bungie, I mean, again, I got to give Grubb his flowers, because Jez, Gordon, Grubb, they were on this. They were on. They were like, your people's interested before the Sony situation happened as far as Bungie. And it made sense. I know for a fact Phil Spencer's favorite game is Destiny. Like, he would be playing Destiny 2 from way back in the day. Not as much anymore. I wonder if that had to do with the deal. Ever since they got acquired, I don't see Phil on Destiny like that no more.
That and Vampire Survivors.
Oh yeah, Vampire S tier or something. But yeah, like, it makes sense. And remember, there was the Beyond Light DLC was in Game Pass. I always felt that was significant. That was huge. That was the beginning of the flirtation that they want them in Game Pass. Now, I think where the documents proved was that they felt maybe Bungie's cost was too high, right? Based on what they were given, let's be honest. And then two, because I know the relationship, Bungie has gone from relationship to relationship, and now it's like, wait, we want to do what we want to do. We want an open relationship. And I don't think, based on what Microsoft was thinking about paying or what they wanted, Microsoft's like, look, we're going to want some of this exclusive for what you're asking. So I think that's where the disconnect happened. And then if I had to predict again, I've always felt at the Activision Blizzard announcement, which was groundbreaking, it shocked the industry. Oh my God, Microsoft is thinking of acquiring Activision Blizzard King. You can't tell me that as a reactionary move, Sony's going to say, okay, we're already in talks. We know these deals go years in advance, but we're already, hey, let's accelerate this. We need to protect ourselves. So that's my thought. Zynga, I don't care about, but I understand why Zynga would be a target. But the Sega and Bungie thing, makes a lot of sense. And I will say this. I'm going to put this out there. Don't necessarily think that the Sega thing's over. That's all I'm going to say. I don't
have any information on that, but I agree.
I want to say I have information, but I know the relationship is really there. And I know that there are a lot of things that may be on hold post ABK, right? They've even said that they were not going to, looking to stop acquiring, they're still going to be looking to acquire after that. So we've had whole going about that. It's all about the scope. So I'm not willing to concede that the Sega thing is over, and I'll just leave it at that for now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Sega one is written on the wall for a closer partnership than what already exists based off what we're seeing. And there could come a point where Xbox and Sega get so close that, like, what do they gain out of buying them? Because like, missing from this list, I thought was interesting was someone like Asobo. And Asobo was on a lot of people's lists, like, oh, you had Plague Tale Day One. Oh, Microsoft Flight Simulator, what a great asset. But I think Xbox may be of the understanding, I'm just assuming here, if we get very close to a company and they kind of just love what we're doing, we love what they're doing, do we really need to buy them? A lot of these are, outside of Sega, kind of unlikely partners. Like Bungie, there's a lot of history, but to me, after like Destiny and them flying the nest and how their relationship with Microsoft kind of soured, this to me is one of those things where I don't know if this would have been the same old Bungie Xbox relationship that we all think about during the OG Xbox days, the 360 days. One thing that really underlined a lot of these email exchanges was mobile games. We see it with Zynga, Niantic, and let's actually read the next one here to bring it all together. Yes, Square Enix even.
Wow.
Xbox wanted to acquire Square Enix in 2019, according to now revealed documents. Xbox saw it as an opportunity to bolster their weaker Eastern presence and obviously fortify Game Pass with major blockbuster games like Final Fantasy. They also saw extreme value in Square Enix's mobile gaming division, which they thought, quote, could help future mobile Game Pass offerings, end quote. They went on to say that, quote, combining Square Enix's robust mobile native portfolio with our own could help potentially create a mobile native Xbox Game Pass SKU, end quote. So mobile. This is the thing that we've talked a lot about. I'll take the unsexy part of the conversation here and get into it. We've kind of ignored the blatant point of the ABK deal for a while, and we've addressed it a few times on Duke, but I feel like people are always thinking like, Matty, Cog, what IP do you think they're going to revive from Activision? And I look at the Bethesda relationship, I take it one step further back, and I'm like, they have yet to do something with Fallout, Elder Scrolls, any of the IP they've had a hold of for almost 3 years now. So what am I seeing that's going to convince me when they get Activision that, you know, Tony Hawk's back or something like that? I'm not convinced that's the future because we see how slow moving things are based off the quality now of Redfall. So it's going to be slow moving for even more so with Activision, I imagine, because it's a bigger company with much more games, much more teams to manage. And that's why they're buying publishers so they can manage themselves and just provide content for Game Pass. And I say all of that because mobile. The reason they're getting ABK is king. You know, of course, getting Call of Duty is a majorly important thing. Having a Game Pass, huge for Microsoft. That cannot be overstated. But the main thing they're going for here in all these emails we're reading is they are trying to explore, expand their mobile presence. Phil is on record in some of these emails as saying that the console market is stagnant. Mobile is the fastest growing worldwide. Xbox wants a mobile footprint, and they are seeking partners who have mobile gaming divisions. Square Enix has been pushing out mobile games. But to go back to UCOG, let's turn this conversation a little more sexy. Mm-hmm. Sega just bought Rovio. Mm-hmm. Angry Birds developer. Oh. So as they expand their mobile footprint, watch out. Don't let the Dukes be right on this one. Don't let us be right on this one. You all will hate us.
Never hit every. Oh yeah, bro. Like I, to the point, I'm going to be like, yo, all the people who wrote in the comment section about me, I need y'all to come to the front of the congregation and sit and get nothing. Like I want accountability now. Because see, here's the thing, Matty. We got to come on here when we're wrong. We're like, yo, we got that wrong, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And we men about it. We're men of honor, men of respect. But the common boys get to say all these things, do all these things, attack us for being so wrong. But when we prove it, I don't see the same dude that be like, you know what? I was one of those guys. I was a comment boy. I was a Duke comment boy, and I was blasting y'all. And yo, my bad. Y'all got that one right. Where's them comments? I want accountability in the comment section now. That's what I want. So if you was one of those dudes, come forward. Just be like, yo, you know what? Y'all was right. I got that one wrong. And I'm telling you, you're going to earn so much respect from me. I'm going to shout you out because that's what I just want accountability, man. That's all. Let's get to pop off and we don't get to say nothing. But when we write, they disappear. You don't see these dudes. That's the funny thing. They disappear, bro. Anyway, I'm done with my
just holding back my energy. I want to get ahead of myself because we're not really going to make predictions on how this case will go out because I should have prefaced all of this by saying, for those who are unsure, right now we're recording this. The case is not closed. It's still about a day or two out from that. And so what we want to do is base our episode here around the findings and then next week probably on what the decision on the injunction is going to be and obviously the fallout from all of that. But I'm saving my kind of like I told you so energy for if Xbox does succeed here and they do end up leapfrogging the UK. Look, man, some of those comments were very much directed at me, like calling me a disappointment. I was like, okay. Yeah. Don't let me be right. Don't let me be right. Because I'm one of the creators who will make you pay for it. Literally. But like, I'll just remind you in a couple episodes. But yeah, this acquisition list is nuts. I mean, it's funny because we see all these E3 leaks, right? Like, look at the list of games that are coming out, bro. Like, look at the acquisition targets. And we actually got one. We actually got a legitimate list of who Microsoft is looking at and why they're looking at them. It's bonkers, dude. Now, out of this whole list, what was the biggest surprise to you, right? Like Sega for us, we've been kind of beating the war drum. We know Zynga was up for sale.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what was one you looked at here and went, oh, wow, like they're here on this list?
I think there's a couple here. Some of the smaller ones surprised me. Playdead. What's funny was I was such a Playdead fanboy, but like what I like about these lists is, let me just say this for the record, because I see this rhetoric running around that it's like, oh, you see, this is why Microsoft's evil. Look at this list. They're trying to buy everything. And let's be very clear. This is corporate cog talking to you. If you don't think your favorite company does not have this same list for all potential, it's called the watch list, y'all. Everyone has a North Star. Everyone has a watch list of what they're doing and why they would potentially give value. And the beauty of this list that we're getting privy of with this is also the weaknesses, right? What was interesting about Bungie's was like, hey, it may be burnout. We got to see, as far as their IPs, things of that nature. Like I love the analysis. So it gives you into the Microsoft thought process. But back to your question, some of the smaller stuff really surprised me because it was just like, all right, they looked at Playground. I thought Rebellion was interesting. Another one was where's my guys? People Can Fly. People Can Fly because
I noticed a commonality, sir. If you were Game Pass day one. You made the list. You
made the list. And there's another commonality I don't know if you've been noticing too, which is like from an acquisition standpoint, which is anything that Sony has leveraged as exclusive to them with third-party deals, where it be, Square's names come up, right? Sega, the Atlas games, anything that Sony used to leverage from a company, from a third-party exclusive deal, was also targeted. I thought that was interesting because you turn your weakness into strength by ownership. And I thought that was an interesting mindset. This is a very, very interesting list. And it was a very diverse list. And then as you saw, as the pages of document, you see where it narrowed down to, because there was a grander list and then it got narrowed down into what these specific targets and thus you saw the Sega, the Bungie. But those are mine. Any ones for you specific that you go, what was they doing there? What they was thinking about?
I think for me, it's got to be like Remedy makes sense, right? But for me, it's got to be Larian. I saw Larian. I was like, what? Like Larian? I mean, I would have loved that, man. I think they make some of the best role-playing games, but with all that they already have in the RPG genre, I'm surprised they were on a consideration list for acquisition because I wonder if they have data on how much their games bring in, player count wise or marketing wise, plans for IP. Certainly there's something you could throw at Larian to work on underneath Microsoft. I mean, that was to me the kind of big curveball in the terms of like console quality games. I was thinking, wait, they want them. There's even an enormous watch list with, let's see here, man. They had Ember Labs on their watch list. They made Kenna Bridge of Spirits, which is a PlayStation 5 game. They had Hazelight, A Way Out, It Takes Two on here. Mundfish is on here. Moon Studios is on here. Team Cherry, Hollow Knight is on here. Striking Distance is on here. Yeah. And they have key titles listed, studio size, their locations and core competencies. And some are people and ideas. Some are new audiences. Some are live ops, steady flow, tech and infrastructure for Moon Studios and so on and so forth. Very, very interesting stuff on this list here, man. I mean, it goes a mile long. Like there are, on the consideration side of things, I mean, they even had like CD Projekt Red, for example.
I peeped that. There's a lot, man. This is where, again, it's all fascinating stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because this is the rare time that we get to see the mindset of a company and why an acquisition could be beneficial, the pros and the cons of it. And then the process of presenting, right? Phil saying, hey, I want to, this is the reason, like the detailed reasoning in that email as to why Sega was a target was very intriguing to me. So it goes to show you what you said, value proposition, what type of games they create. But the key thing seems to be mobile. Mobile attachment or component with it as well makes it exciting. But it is interesting to see the smaller companies on there. I think Housemarque was on the list at one point. Housemarque was on that. Wow. Interesting stuff.
Is it scary to you? Because what I see is a company playing with monopoly money. Not literally being a monopoly, but I'm thinking of just like, oh, whatever, I fucking spend 100 million on this, and just go around the board again. Like I am seeing that kind of energy. Like you see the emails, almost like a little shopping list, kind of like, let's go get Sega. Like let's go get this company out here. Like there's a real motivation to go out and just buy these companies outright. And when we see this list, it's en masse, and we already knew that, but I don't think we had a proper understanding of just how far running this list is and how many teams they're really looking at. So is there any fear in Lord Acquisition's veins with how aggressive Microsoft truly looks to be with some of these acquisitions? Because to me, I'm generous to one like a Sega. But beyond that, like to me, that's my mental line in the sand is to like, all right, you're out of publishers. Like you got your Japanese one, you got your big American one in Activision, you got all the IP, you've got Bethesda and kind of your more like crafty, creative projects. You kind of have everything addressed. What else do you need before you start just running shit on your own? And I worry that Xbox could be the next Embracer Group, in fairness. Like I worry that we see what's happening with Embracer right now in real time. They're absolutely cutting parts of themselves off as we go day by day because they are too big. And I worry, I know Xbox has Microsoft at their back, but when we saw what happened with Redfall, I think that's just a kind of like a flare gun in the sky. Like, watch out. This is what can happen if we grow too big and we can't manage all these teams doing their own things, because Xbox is in a rock and a hard place. They need to start claiming content because they need to feed Game Pass and they need to create an identity for their box that's missing. And I'm sympathetic to that. I get that. But at the same time, man, I look at beyond Sega and some of these other developers individually. And I'm like, okay, like we can make this work, but eventually it's like, how far do they want to go? And does it scare you? Because it does freak me out just a little bit for sure.
Look, valid concern, valid question. I'm definitely of the differing mindset. The reason why is this, we got to be honest. First of all, it's a watch list. So just because we're seeing it doesn't mean they're going to acquire everyone. And I think that's where I disagree with people. And I think there's a bit of fear mongering that, they're trying to just buy everything and the whole industry is in danger. No, because everyone else is doing the same thing from a watch list. Let's just break it down from subscription service. Look at what Disney's doing. Every aspect of entertainment or tech, there's consolidation. And again, I'm not going to do whataboutism. But in the same token, your competitor is, first of all, you're in third place. Let's just be clear, right? Your competitor is also acquiring Housemarque, all these different studios, Bungie, all these different studios, right? Then on top of that, your competitor, right? First of all, you've lost the generation that quote unquote you was supposed to lose. Sony is a household brand, period. When people think gaming, they think PlayStation. Let's just be clear. There's no ego involved here, or they think Nintendo. Xbox is not of that brand recognition. Sony themselves are on GQ. They look at themselves as bigger than that. So you have that uphill battle, and you don't have the install base. We already see that when you try to say, hey, where's the Mega Man games for us? You know what I'm saying? You don't have no leverage, bruh, because you don't have the install base. You don't have the brand recognition. And guess what? We can guarantee ourselves to make a bigger profit with PlayStation. Why should we consider to you? Oh, but you have extra money. Maybe you should pay us more, right? Let's talk about the reality of the business of being. This is not, woe is $1 trillion company. I'm just telling you telling people the reality.
Facts, yeah.
So then here's the thing. Now you have a situation where not only your competitor has all these advantages over you, and let's be real, make games better than you. You can't make games on your own. You've proven that. 343 is yours. It ain't been proven to be, let's just, you know what I'm saying? Let's just keep it real.
No, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? Initiative, right? These are things I cannot
we'll talk about them.
Right?
That's my other victory lap.
No doubt. We have, when it's yours, when it's just you, when you're the one responsible to make it, you haven't had that track record, right? So to me, a sign of intelligence is getting and shoring up your weaknesses with people who actually do things better than you and leaving them alone. I've always said that. That to me is a sign of intelligence. Hey, I don't make, you know what I do? I make good beats. I make a good studio. When it comes to lyrics and making a game and making a song, I'm not good at that. So I'm going to get the songwriter and say, hey, what do you need? How can I make your life a bit easier? Because you are considered one of the best in the business. And guess what? We have a service that we need content. Here's my next point. Games are taking, we've already proven, games are on both sides. Games taking 4 to 5 years. Forget 2 to 3, 4 to 5. You can't have gaps like 2022 with all the studios that they have right now and still think you're going to survive with PlayStation. Last point. We have to be honest about, we're talking about harming competition, right? And I understand from a fan, hey, you can't just keep buying every publisher. I agree. Like at some point, there has to be a limit with where you go. I'm with you on that. I'm fair. But at the same time, your competitor is trying to erase you from existence. They are literally everything pop culture. They have the third party exclusive or their name or marketing deal and have content excluded from you, period. Right? How can you beat someone who has the brand recognition, makes games better than you, and takes everything that's hot away from you? Right? Bro, so there's a part of me that's like, if you are to take gaming seriously, because remember, at one point, we weren't sure. Like, yo, are they serious? Are they in it? Xbox One generation, TV. Then Phil, that's why Phil is beloved, because Phil got to fight for Satya to say, no, we need to be involved. And thus you change your strategy. We can't out console them. We can't, right? That's the mindset. Let's make a subscription service. Let's flip this. Let's get into cloud. Let's get into PC. Let's become a service kind of base industry. Guess what? You look at the numbers. And this is where I agree with Colin a lot. They are losing money. Like, let's just make this thing. Like, short term, this plan that they're doing right now is losing money, but with the investment of what it could be, right? There is risk. I'm not going to say there's not. But if they get what they want with the acquisitions and ownership, thus it puts them in a better position long term. There's risk with everything. I'm never going to say, yo, it's guaranteed. Yo, they do this. You know what I'm saying? I'm never going to do that. But I understand the strategy and I do support it because look, Sony, we're not going to sit here and act like they are the white knights here and this is the evil Microsoft doing. Bro, you're cutting people out of the game. You're not letting anybody breathe. You're making it such that no one can get that hot game because you and your market power is finessing it. And think about Call of Duty. I know we're going to get to it. The most gangster thing in this thing, in my opinion, is Bobby Kotick. Oh, boy. He literally said, bro, if you don't bend the knee, Microsoft, and take this 80-20 split, we comfortable with removing it off your platform. We got this PlayStation money right here. And you know what Sarah Bond said? We yield, we submit, because we could not live in a world where Call of Duty was not on our system. That's what the power of Sony. We got to stop with this. Both companies are going to, this is the last thing I'll say. We have to stop with this virtuous thing I'm seeing, the way this one's doing it the right way, right? Both of them will like to get each other out of existence. Let's just be clear. These emails are coming out. Both of them, if you put a good corporations go corporate. They want to be the number one de facto thing. So that part I'm starting to see, and that's pretty much the last thing of it. But I am passionate about the acquisition thing because there's a part of me that, again, I always tell people what's the result. And when you talk about investment, right? You talk about, okay, well, all you got to do is invest in yourself. What does that really mean? You're going to invest. Oh, all you got to do is just invest in Undead Labs and make it. But bro, I just want people to be realistic. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, I'm done. That was my rant. I just had to get Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. We'll certainly talk more about these leaked emails. Let's talk a game announcement, I guess, right? Indiana Jones. There was a lot of division in the Xbox community. Will it or won't it be exclusive to Xbox and PC? It will. And this was one that I'm wondering if you're in the same boat. I was very confused at the conversation surrounding this game when people were saying, oh, it's not going to be exclusive. I don't think it'll be exclusive. I think like Jay's special Nick of Xbox Era kind of had like a back and forth about it. And a lot of the Xbox community was like, no, they're not going to make it exclusive. And I never co-signed the why of it. I'm like, why wouldn't they? It's fucking Indiana Jones. Like, I look at the very obvious example across the pond. I look at PlayStation. I look at Spider-Man, the biggest superhero on the planet next to Batman and Superman. I look at something like Wolverine, another very prominent Marvel superhero. Exclusivity deals all around, baby. So Xbox, you're telling me they can't lock down Indiana Jones? Now, it's been said that originally it was planned for multi-plat. It's now been renegotiated to be exclusive to the console alongside PCs, thanks to the acquisition itself. So to me, I thought you got to have an answer to what Spider-Man is doing. You have to have some sort of pop culture association. So I'm usually not rah about exclusives. I've always said, and I'll keep repeating it, it's a thing I've been a defender of, because you know what? They need to create an identity for their box, just like PlayStation, just like Nintendo. These are what create the user base, right? And I think it's great that they're locking this one down, because they need things like this. We have been, since this show's inception, even before COG was a host, I've been saying like they need to go get pop culture. They need DC, Marvel, Lucasfilm, whatever. They need stuff like that on their platform that is just theirs. That's how you create the more casual gamer coming in and saying, oh, I want that. They need more of that. So Indiana Jones, I think, is a good starting point. We'll see the quality of the product, but are you surprised by this revelation at all?
I'm a little bit, only because I'm with you that it makes sense to make it exclusive, right? Like, I was surprised at the beginning that there was multi-plat talk about it when we first heard about the announcement of the game. But there's a part of me that, if we read the documents, that they themselves say, hey, we can't keep affording to miss out on pop culture type stuff, which I thought was interesting. And then two, it goes to show you that I thought the deal was done pre-acquisition, in that, oh, you know, Disney said, hey, it's got to be multiplayer, but they approached Disney. And this, in fairness to Sony, this is what I will say, that if they want to bring this up in court to try to sway things their way, because if you're going to go with the, hey, we're not sure what they're going to do with Call of Duty thing based on the inconsistency in, you know, Bethesda properties, and, you know, well, Starfield is, and this one isn't, that kind of thing. So if you want to go that route, look, when you own something, I'm of the firm believer, like exclusive, you get to choose to do what you want to do with it. But I have to admit, and I had to learn, right, that Call of Duty is a generational type of game. It's a different type of title. So in that case, it will affect more because of the pure scale of it. And I understand that. But yeah, I was surprised they did push for the exclusivity. I mean, I ain't got a problem with it in terms of Indiana Jones, because you need to, you know, establish. But I was surprised, because even though I felt it was the right thing to do, I thought they would kind of concede and say, hey, we don't want to upset, you know, and the existing deal, you know, if it was like a, you know, multi-plat situation that Disney wanted. But what we learned, Disney's all about the exclusives.
I think it creates more sales for them, frankly. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I look at something like Guardians of the Galaxy. When there's brand fatigue, it doesn't matter how many platforms it's on, but when it's exclusive, there's a conversation. There's an excitement. Oh my God, like I can only get this here. And I mean, look how many copies Spider-Man has sold. It speaks for itself. I just think, I know it's Spider-Man, but I just think they see that this creates some type of excitement that when they're available everywhere, there hasn't been that level of success, right? So that's how I look at it personally.
Yeah,
but
it is interesting.
Let's move on to the next one. A private email exchange between Jim Ryan and former Sony president Chris Deering. And it was quite enlightening on Jim's true stance regarding Call of Duty exclusivity and the nature of Xbox's deal as well. Let's read Chris's first email and then Jim's response. Chris writes, Phil Spencer was on CNBC saying that the acquisition would cement Microsoft as a player in mobile games. Strike me more as a King play than COD, but King sold to Bobby for $5 billion and has now grown to be worth 50 billion euros. If it was an Xbox exclusivity play, Spencer could have locked up Microsoft console exclusivity for the next 3 COD releases for maybe $5 billion. The major cash out will lure most of the talent to take the money and run as fast as their contracts will allow, leaving Microsoft with a very gnarly management challenge. I bet Yves is smiling like a Cheshire cat. If this was a play to end the run of PS5, etc., I think it was massively overvalued and will not meaningfully succeed. I guess Microsoft can piss away that kind of valuation without being more harmed than helped. But I am not losing a wink of sleep over the future for our baby. I hope you agree. Cheers, Chris. P.S. They would have been better off announcing a new electric car. Here's what Jim says in response. It's not an Xbox exclusivity play at all. They're thinking bigger than that, and they have the cash to make moves like this. I spent a fair bit of time with both Phil and Bobby over the past day. I'm pretty sure we'll continue to see COD on PlayStation for many years to come. We have good stuff cooking. Keep your eyes peeled. I'm not complacent, and I'd rather this hadn't happened, but we'll be okay. More than okay. Now, after all the kicking and screaming, Lord Cognito, making those trips to Brussels, saying, yo, Call of Duty, it's going to put us out of business, playing the victim, which both sides are guilty of, by the way. We see Jim's true feelings. This is of January 2022. So this was January 20th, 2022 to be exact. So this was fresh off the deal when the emotions were the most raw. And he's like, yeah, we'll be fine. And then since then, the narrative has changed dramatically. Now it's possible a reality hit him, but more than likely, the politics of the situation, right? So what do you make of Jim's true stance here in this email exchange with Chris Deering? Your facial expressions are telling, so take the stage, sir.
Look, man, it was funny. I've been a defender of Jim Ryan a lot of times on Define and Duke. I've always found myself always defending. I cannot defend this. Like, you got caught, bro. Like, this is explosive to me. Again, now, how much value does it play in the case? We will soon find out. Remember, this is a political thing as far as I'm concerned. But this is, when I saw this was damning. Like, you literally was like, yo, bro, we got this, bro. Like, literally, like, oh, that's what they did? Okay, you know what? I see it with the King situation, whatever, but we're good. To be honest, this was the type of energy I assumed from Sony from the jump. You're the market leader, right? You have some of the best IPs in the game. Yes, this is a significant shift. We're not going to say that, but you're not going to lose Call of Duty. That is the key. It's not going to be removed off. So if I had to guess, these are his true feelings, but what has probably happened since then is the revenue breakdown. And that's where this all comes to, in the screws. And hey, if I could do some things to block this, maybe we stop this all together, right? So if you break it down.
Just wringing them dry.
They want this. We're going to make it extremely difficult. We're going to get as much as we could get out of this. And maybe we actually still block this thing. So, we all know this fraud. Look, it's fraudulent behavior. This is why it is. Bro. This is why he gets the nicknames. You know me, I never get into the hyperbole, and I'm never calling someone flying, lying, all that stuff. You know, I know where that's going. But this is why you get fraudulent behavior. You literally, or they got you in 4K. They got you in 4K, bro. Literally say, yo, this ain't nothing. We good. Why are we here then? So again, reality kicked in. You realize I've always said you got strength out there in Europe. I knew you did. Mm-hmm. And remember, it's the key I'm going to say. Brand power. PlayStation is synonymous with everything. So if you play up to, oh my God, we will be harmed. We won't be able to exist. With your brand power and your influence, you could move things. And that's where I'm going to leave this at.
100%. Jim Ryan got caught with his pants down a bit here. And so did Xbox in some areas, but...
Oh yeah, them too.
Oh yeah, but here, man, it's very telling. And, it's one of those things where because of the politics of the situation, you just can't say for sure. Like, to me, this is pretty damning to their argument for the last year or so. Like, you just look at that and just cuts it all out. But because of the politics of it all, and we just know based off the times we thought we had something right and we were wrong, and the times we thought we had something wrong and we were totally right, that this can go either way, and that this email could not fucking matter at all, or it could be the biggest piece to Xbox bodying PlayStation out of this courtroom and saying, like, yeah, you know what, like, this deal, we're not going to grant the injunction. It can go through. Of course, we'll see. We'll probably discuss that next week. But yeah, man, this is extremely well said on your part. My man got caught with some fraudulent behavior. Now, I'm curious about this next one here because we're sticking with the Jim Ryan saga here. He said in a deposition back in April that if Microsoft's acquisition of Activision happens, Sony will not share any PlayStation 6 information with the Activision developers, saying that they'll not be able to share relevant future console info to a developer owned by a competitor. I think a little less fraudulent here, and this makes sense, but given that Xbox wants to bring their games like Call of Duty over to PlayStation, I wonder if by nature of not having the development tools, if you end up getting a kind of battle against the promises where you get the PS5 SKU that will upgrade to the PS6 later, and Xbox has the best version of Call of Duty by nature of what PlayStation's saying here, because Minecraft does not have an upgraded version over on PlayStation 5. It's the PlayStation 4 version because PlayStation doesn't want to give console info over to Mojang, which is a Microsoft-owned studio. So I almost feel like we're starting to see where there may be some changes in the quality of these versions, potentially. But do you make the same of this? Is there any other takeaways from it?
Again, normally I'm down with the Jim Ryan Defense Force, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I do understand it to an extent. I do understand it to an extent because it's like, it's your competitor that owns them, and then they get the dirt on your new console and they get the one up. I do understand. Corporate cog understands. I understand. But at the same time, it's like, you can't complain about an inferior version if you're not willing to give the dev kits up, right? So in fairness, I don't know how you could set up the protections there. It's a very sticky situation. In fairness, I understand both sides because Microsoft could say, look, we are going to give you parity. We need the dev kit. They'd be like, we don't want to give you the dev kit because you can look behind and try to, I get it. So that's something the courts are going to have to decide. I don't know what's fair there. In fairness there, this is new territory for, but I will shout out my man, Patrick Renner, had him in the realm. He made he's very outspoken. I love him. He was the one that talked about the Halo. And in fairness, he's criticized both Xbox very hard about the way Halo was handled, said it was a disgrace, and Microsoft should be ashamed of themselves, and certain people need to be fired instead of that. So and cops agree. See, the cops they read it. And then he talked about how Jim Ryan is full of it. And he was just kind of like, look, for anyone to think that developers going to come in there and make an inferior version purposely on your console is, his words were, I'm quoting him, asinine. He said, Jim Ryan, that statement is asinine. So again, the politics in play here, and I start to see, but that I will leave to the courts and see how that plays out. Because I don't know, Matty, the right way to handle that. Because I do understand both sides there.
Yeah, that's something that they're going to have to settle at some point. But obviously bigger fish to fry at this moment. Last Jim Ryan quote, this one's insane. He claimed that publishers hate Game Pass. And I think that's a pretty tall statement because I think there's one that's clear, like Take-Two has been very anti-Game Pass. And I want to clarify that there's a certain company Xbox might acquire that also doesn't seem quite favorable on Game Pass and said it under oath in the courtroom.
Which company is that?
Let's hear from Bobby Kotick, shall we? Quote, I have a general aversion to the idea of multi-game subscription services. Maybe part of it is being in Los Angeles and having large, big media companies move their content to these subscription streaming services, and the business results have suffered. He then went on to say he has no plans to put Call of Duty on these services, which would include Game Pass. Kotick mentioned that Activision has, quote, experimented with a few streaming services, end quote, but that he didn't plan to make other titles available on them moving forward. That said, Kotick is open to reevaluating the subscription services later on. He then reaffirmed his stance with a relatively damning statement, quote, generally speaking, I don't believe that a multi-subscription service for games is the best way to enable players to make their investment. I don't agree with the idea of a multi-game subscription service as a business proposition going forward, but we, being Activision and Microsoft, can agree to disagree, end quote. So Jim kind of getting fortified by the company being purchased by Xbox, saying like pretty much, hey, we want our golden parachute and then we're fucking out of here. Y'all can do what you want with the games after. And I worry about talent retention, given that what's happening here in this major transition, because obviously you want the talent alongside the IP and you want to make sure you maintain all of that. That's excluding, of course, Bobby Kotick. But publishers apparently hate Game Pass. Meanwhile, you got Ubisoft floating around it, apparently. You got EA Play directly integrated in there. THQ is rumored to be selling their entire library to Xbox for Game Pass. Of course, indies are very celebratory of it. And I find this an interesting argument, non-existent one at that, because I think most companies love Game Pass because you win either way. If you have a struggling game, Game Pass day one, you make up some of the funds up front. If it's a multiplayer, Game Pass day one, you got the built-in player base. If you're having great sales and then your long tail is starting to dry up, you go to Game Pass and get more revenue and you get another bump there. I just feel like it works both short and long term for these companies. But beyond what we talk about with bleeding money through Game Pass, whether or not it's generating an actual profit like Xbox has claimed before, what we see here is an industry that likes going to Game Pass because at the bare minimum, the corporate reality is it's free cash for some of these games that are already existing and making money. It's like, oh, now that we have this, let's say Hogwarts Legacy, we've sold tens of millions of copies. It's time for Game Pass. Give us $10 million, please. Thank you. Like, that's it. Because we have the big popping game. Well, we don't need you. We don't need you at all. We can just keep selling the game. Don't you want us in our service? Just, I think it gives publishers and developers such a strong arm at the table that they can kind of choose their own fate here. And especially, it goes without saying, the indie developers. But Cog, your thoughts on the hatred of Game Pass from both Bobby Kotick and Jim Ryan and apparently other publishers?
That's Jim Ryan's number one defender. I will say there is truth to the big guys, the very big guys. Now, when I say big guys, it's very small of them, like Activision, right? Call of Duty. We saw, what is it, 127, but some number, some stuff just got leaked out that they supposed to have. Did you see?
Oh, don't worry, it's in the script.
It's in the script. All right, so we're going to get to that.
I was all over
man, professional podcast. Man, Mr. Banks, why do I even doubt? I just show up, everything is done to my, oh my God, it's great here to find it's great. So look, I get it if you're Activision, if you're Take-Two with the sheer amounts of units you sell, right? There is no number currently right now that Game Pass and Xbox can give you that's going to satiate those sales at all. It behooves you. No, we're not messing with you. Now, if we do mess with you, it may be later in the cycle of the game or our B-level title, right? Who we're not sure about you. Okay, cool. Hello. Hello, right? Outriders with certain other people, things we're not sure about, right? So that's what, but this, again, this hate Game Pass stuff, I got to be honest, like, Matty, it just feels like a lot of hateful rhetoric for people who have an agenda against them. And the reality is we have the metrics, we have the facts. If this was the case, EA Play would not be in Game Pass. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If we had to get Ubisoft, these are big publishers in Game Pass. All these people making deals with, even Square themselves had Game Pass deals and Octopath, things of that nature. So we're not going to do this narrative of everyone hates you. Please tell us this list of all the people you spoke to that hate it, because the majority outweigh your one or two that may not like it. And that's the thing. And again, we just got to stop this. I understand what Jim's trying to do for the case,
but parroting what he said afterwards.
Exactly, and the thing, Bobby, we know Bobby. Bobby Arthur gonna be the wild card here. He out to get his golden parachute. However, he's the most entertaining thing of this case for me, because he ain't got nothing to lose. He ready to take everybody down. That's how I'm looking at it.
He's like, I'm getting $3 billion out of this no matter what. That's the bare minimum.
You not messing with Bobby Bad. If I got to slander each one of y'all to get this, y'all gonna get some. I'm here for Bobby. This is the entertainment part of the
He's doing great. Yeah.
He's fantastic right now. He's slandering everybody. But that's all. I don't like this, because what it is Jim is very intelligent. He knows this type of talk feeds into his base, and this whole devaluation stuff, I don't buy any of that. It's all part of the song and dance of this case. So that's why I'm gonna leave it.
Yeah. Certainly, I don't think it would have gone this far if it was bleeding that much and people hated it as much.
Right.
Here's one that got a lot of talk. We discussed it briefly last week, and we waited for the official receipts. We have them now. Matt Booty says in 2019 that Microsoft could spend Sony out of the business. Here is the exact email from December 17th, 2019. Thanks for sharing. A lot to digest here. We'll read it in detail. A different view to the general view below might be that we, Microsoft, are in a very unique position to be able to go spend Sony out of business. I think that if we think that video game content matters in 10 years, we might look back and say, totally would have been worth it to lose $2 billion or $3 billion in 2020 to avoid a situation where Tencent, Google, Amazon, or even Sony have become the Disney of games and own most of the valuable content. For example, it is practically impossible for anyone to start a new video streaming service at scale at this point. What content do you base it on? Things like Hulu and CBS All Access will be trivial players in the space. In games, Google is 3 to 4 years away from being able to have a studio up and running. Amazon has shown no ability to execute on game content, which, hey, that is an evergreen ass statement, bro. That guy was on point.
Yo, that booty was outside. Yo.
Content is the one moat that we have in terms of a catalog that runs on current devices and capability to create new. Sony is the really only other player who could compete with Game Pass, and we have a 2-year and 10 million subs lead. So by that point, they had 10 million subs. So that's a little fun fact. If we reverse course on day and date, it's going to be hard to convince folks that things like Mixer or xCloud could have much a chance of surviving scrutiny either. Very interesting email. Now, I don't think this plays into the overall decision being made because while I view it as a man observing the reality that could be, and they didn't take an action into place that then tried to move PlayStation out of the business, but more so saying we are in a unique position where we have so much money, we could body other players out of the industry. So I found that interesting, Cog, that it is real. The email, in fact, is real. Matt Booty did say they could spend Sony out of the business and then went into detail on why they're really making these types of purchases, that they're willing to lose money in the opening years because they need to own content now, because much like other streaming services that are starting late, when they don't have content, they lose right out the gate. So, Lord Acquisition, this is all you once more. What do you think?
Look, this is the big one, right? This is where everyone's going crazy about. This is a hot one, man. This is a hot one. Look, in fairness, I try to be as fair as I can, both sides. And I am concerned that even though I do think this statement is extremely true, and I do think that it coincides with what I've been saying, which is you have to own if the long play is to be around on a subscription service. You have to own companies. You just have to. If you need to feed the beast, you can't have multiple 2022 years of no Starfield, no Redfall, and no first party lineup and game development. Booty himself has said 4 to 5 years minimum now. And these games, we see how much they cost. So look, I get it. I do think, because again, I don't know how this court in this proceeding views things, right? So if they say, yo, you see, we got them. They trying to get us out of here. They're going to buy up everything. And it could be that type of energy. I don't know. We do have full context, which does explain the statement more. But I will say this, I still think, I'm not going to, we will talk about later what we think is going to happen in next week or whatever. Yeah. But this could be used as a factor against them. I don't know where the weight of this is. You know what I'm saying? If they, this one of them, they could highlight this in red. If it, you know what I'm saying, kind of go another way. But I do agree with Matt Booty's overall statements. I think no lies were told. I think that you have to invest. People always said, we want Xbox to compete. I just don't like them in, the Xbox One generation. They finally get the okay from higher ups to invest in gaming with this subscription service model. And now people are mad, but not like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, that's not how it works. Like it's a sleeping giant. They're now utilizing their resources. Now, should they be buying everything? No, of course. There's got to be checks and balances on some things. But if you're going to do this, look at Tencent, Google, Amazon, and they rightfully have Sony as a competitor. These are the people you're playing against. So if you're to be taken seriously, and utilize your cloud infrastructure in conjunction with this subscription service, you got to invest now so you be ahead of the game. Short-term sunken cost loss versus long-term game, and you could be de facto winner in this thing. So yeah, but we'll see if this gets held against them. It could be.
In fairness, he's saying exactly what we've all been saying for a while. It's just a man in the head of Xbox Game Studios position recognizing it as well, which is that we've said on Defining Duke since Bethesda was purchased that this is when Activision was purchased, that this is a company that could outspend PlayStation every day of the week. And we did say that PlayStation should watch how involved they get with blocking Activision, because if the deal does get blocked, I personally fear for the opposite end of things, where I know people are worried about like how many companies they're going to buy. I fear for when Xbox starts being told, all right, it's PlayStation's game we got to play, right? We got to just buy everyone out, pretty much. We got to buy respective games out. Okay, got it. We're going to go do that, because then they could just do what PlayStation's done for certain games for Xbox fans and just be like gathering all the riches and just erecting a wall, building the moat and saying, come on, come get the fortress now, right? So that's how I'm looking at things here, where, as you said, no lies were told. And we know what this is going to be. And it's almost like, stay to the side. Let us conduct our, as Christian Cage said on Dynamite, keep quiet while we conduct our business.
Yo, that's a good one. That's actually a good one. It's going to be a fun time. We got to see how this going to play out, man.
We will. Elder Scrolls 6, according to Phil Spencer, is 5+ years away. Oof! That hurts. That hurts. This was about a conversation on exclusivity. You're going to make it exclusive or not? They're like, oh, I don't know. We haven't really made a decision yet. But in an email, Phil did say, I've made it clear that we are skipping PlayStation. So we have a pretty good feeling that this is going to be an exclusive game. They'd be so dumb not to make this exclusive after all this time. But nonetheless, COG, 5+ years away. I'm going to sound like a broken record. This is the worry I have with Xbox getting involved with these companies, because they're not ameliorating situations that need assistance. Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and yes, put them on the list, Starfield, all three will absolutely need studios that come in and work on this IP if you want to keep it alive and well. I'm not talking put them on a schedule. Every 5 years, we need a Fallout game, although I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm not saying you got to turn it into a workshop. It's got to happen. But we're talking about I was a junior in high school, 16, 17 years old when Skyrim hit, making my first Mr. Matty Rare Weapon and Armor Guide videos. I'm going to be in my mid-30s when this shit comes out. Are you for real? You're thinking this is okay. This is unacceptable. No franchise that has 5 entries should ever go this long. And I get it. We got to have Todd Howard's hand in it. This is where COG, spin-offs, they matter. Go make an Elder Scrolls RTS. Figure it out. You got the IP. You got the relations. This is where I worry a bit, because I think that this is something that needs to be fixed ASAP. If we're talking almost 2030, and Elder Scrolls V Skyrim came out in 2011, bro. I fear for Bethesda Game Studios strictly because it's in that Kingdom Hearts 3 position of the wait has been so long that no matter what, I can't imagine you delivering on the level of hype that's going to be behind this game, because Skyrim has been rooted in culture for over a decade. Everyone knows Skyrim. Your grandma knows Skyrim. And now Elder Scrolls 6 is going to come around. You better be ready to show out with that next-gen Creation 2 goodness. But point being, COG, this is problematic to me. This is deeply problematic that we're talking 5+ years with, again, potentially no Elder Scrolls game. And normally I rant and rave about Fallout. I love Elder Scrolls, but normally I'm ranting and raving about Fallout. It's in the same boat, by the way. It's in the same boat. But COG, any thoughts on the 5+ year wait for ES6 from this point moving forward?
I mean, it hurts to read. It hurts to read. Question. You know how much I love this thing. This is tough. This is tough because this is where we, in my opinion, we skirt the line of wanting what we want, but wanting what we want kind of gets into evil Microsoft. But we don't want evil Microsoft. So it's a tough one, right? Because letting them operate on their own accord gets them in the building and keeps them with their creative freedom, and they're happy and they're getting their resources. I can make Starfield, right? So who's to say? Look, Todd, we know wanted to make Starfield, right? Mm-hmm. Right. I'm with you on the business standpoint that not having a Fallout and an Elder Scrolls this generation, from a number standpoint, can't be something that they're cheering, right? I think they would love to have those in this console generation. Look at the revenue you would make, right? But then there has to be either a middle ground, like you said, which is sub studio that Todd, and they come in and they help and then they make that. But then again, here's the other part. This is Todd's baby. So we telling Todd, all right, fam, I know you don't work this 7-8 years with this. You get in there and make this, right? It's tough. I don't know the answer to that. I don't necessarily think this is where I'm at. This is a discussion that the heads have to have. The Todds, the Booties, and they have to, right. That I think you can suggest the Booties. You could suggest, hey, Todd, like, hey, man, if you had plans to make a Fallout, like, hey, whatever you need, we would facilitate this to help that happen. Because, you can infer, we would love you to make that, but can you force? That's the question. And I don't know if it's in Microsoft's best interest to be forcing, as much as I don't want to hear this. True, money talk. Like if you throw them a bag and say, "Hey, we really incentivize you to make Elder Scrolls 6. Here you go." Mm-hmm. Maybe that changes things, right? But Todd himself only said he got one more maybe in him. It's a tough one, man.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, man. But trust me, Matty, you're preaching. I don't want to minimize anything you said. I just don't know the right answer, because let's just say they do it. And then the Schreier expos, I was forced. We were slaves.
It's going to happen anyway. I'm not minimizing, but it's going to happen anyway. This company is so disgustingly large and is only getting bigger. It's going to happen. We have an expose in today's newsreel in the middle of the FTC court case on an Xbox first-party studio from IGN. Like, it's going to happen. So if that's what's keeping Xbox looking over their shoulder, like, I hope Schreier don't write about us. It's going to happen. Someone's going to do it. So I'm just saying, don't break arms over it.
So how does Matty solve this problem?
Oh, no.
I need to hear this. I need to hear that, because we want it, but we got to talk about the practical solution to making this happen to achieve our goal, which is we want Elder Scrolls. They're working on Starfield. How do we get these people that are working on what they're working on to come to this conclusion?
If I'm Xbox, I treat it like I'm explaining games to the CMA, right? So I bring my Xbox into the Bethesda boardroom, and I'm like, here's Gears Tactics. We contacted a completely separate developer because we had IP freedom. The Coalition was still working on Gears 5. But we wanted to make this little tactics game in the middle of all of that does something totally different, tells a different story, and provides a different play experience. And we want to do that with Elder Scrolls. We want to make, we'll go with my idea. We want to make an RTS using the Blackbird Interactive partnership with Minecraft Legends. And we want to base it like the Thalmor versus some other army in Elder Scrolls, the Empire. And we want to do that. Like, that's our main story. Can we get the IP freedom to go out and pitch this? That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking take Elder Scrolls 6 and have Obsidian go make it.
Oh, because that was the
No.
Man, they killed Duke McCaffrey. He was on that. They were like, no, I'm with you. Okay, no, I'm with you.
I'm talking spin-offs, smaller things that beyond the remasters that I think inevitably need to happen for some of these Bethesda Game Studios games. Fun projects that breathe life into the IP in unique ways. I mean, these things, you can't have a show around Fallout, in my opinion, and then argue to me like, it can only be this specific type of game. I have a game pitch written down that I know no one's got an idea about for a Fallout game that I want to throw Bethesda's way one of these days when we get a couple games under our belt, because I'm telling you, this idea would fucking cook if they actually let it happen. But as a creative, I'm frustrated watching them just let it spoil away. Like, it's got to be the first person open world game. It could be so much more with Fallout, Elder Scrolls, and so on. But it's borderline ignorance if they think it's not. The fact that Fallout, for example, has no books, comics, expanded material. There's being well guarded. That's too well guarded. Too well guarded in my eyes. Not just because I want more content, but you've got to, it's like Star Wars just having only the occasional movie. I'm not saying you got to love the shows and stuff, but there's no books, no comics, and it's larger than life. But yeah, we just do an occasional movie every now and then. What? You got to pump it with some life. And I'm not just saying that as someone who doesn't like 76. I like Elder Scrolls Online, but you can't just hand the hardcore Elder Scrolls fans. You can't say after Skyrim, here's ESO, you get an expansion every June, see you in 2030. Fuck that. Up and down, fuck that. That's insanity. They got to do better. They got to do better.
Last point I'll say is you're right. You know, and we are seeing it we're seeing this, the tea leaves with 343. They're finally saying, yo, other studios.
How much did that take? That's what I'm trying to avoid.
You're absolutely.
How many failures did that take for them to go? And even then, he was kind of nice. But he's like, yeah, you know, they're going to be part of the future. Like, we lay you down nicely.
But remember, we are dealing with a Bethesda now transitioning out of the dark zone of what we hated. Bro, they were in that dark zone. We didn't know what was going on. Wolfenstein.
Is that from the Division?
Yeah, remember the dark zone? We extracting them out. The dark zone. So it's going to take time to figure out where we just survived the Redfall fiasco of an old dark zone Bethesda, Fallout 76, dark zone Bethesda. Like, they're still in transition as a company. So, but look, I'm not making excuses. You are right.
No, I
need to figure it out.
I love the approach you have.
They need to figure it out, though. I'm with you because there's money to be made. People like money. So that's what
come on now. Get a nice paycheck, guys. Let's go.
I agree.
Starfield was originally going to skip Xbox before Xbox came in and purchased Bethesda, it was revealed. Also, it was revealed in a separate article from Windows Central that has flown under the radar that Samuel Tolbert had heard that Starfield was originally going to be PS5 exclusive, like Imran Khan had reported, and Todd Howard had actually fought back against the PS5 exclusivity, which makes sense when you look at the history of that relationship. You look at when console mods came around for Fallout 4 and Skyrim, when people were saying, yo, why are the Xbox console mods fire and PS5 not? Oh boy, he threw them right under the bus in a heartbeat. You look at Skyrim on PS3, speaks for itself. We got a write in here from Captain Bon Clay. Hey, marketing Matty and corporate cog, with the confirmation by Phil Spencer that prior to Bethesda's acquisition, Starfield would be skipping Xbox. I believe this is proof that ownership by Microsoft is better than the alternative, and I can prove it. If you go to the Xbox Skyrim mod page, you will find a wide range of well-made and diverse mods. The same, however, is not true for the PlayStation versions of Skyrim and Fallout 4, which have a heavily moderated and limited mod selection. Had Starfield been made PlayStation exclusive, the console modding scene, which as you know is the lifeblood of a Bethesda game, would be very hurt if it even existed at all. And I would put money on it that this is the main reason Todd Howard fought back. He loves the modding community, and obviously Bethesda does not thrive if they don't have their modding community, because that's why Skyrim has the shelf life of over a decade and is still talked about. It's because of modders. Same thing with Fallout. You lose that with Starfield, you lose what makes a BGS game special. That's just the reality of it. Like that community is what makes these games infinitely replayable. But COG, originally it was going to skip Xbox. It's been confirmed. So what say you, Lord Acquisition? You know, they were about to miss out and they came in and said, no, you're ours. You are coming with us, sir. So what do you make of it?
This is all I'm saying. And again, you know, the Lord Acquisition corporate COG stuff, I have fun with it. But we just got to be real. If you are X, so just everyone separate their fanboyness for a second. And they are about, your competitor is about to have Ghostwire Tokyo, Deathloop, and Starfield. Potentially, based on what we've seen, the game could be a game of a generation style kind of a game if they execute this. And that's not on your platform, in addition to Final Fantasy VII, in addition to Spider-Man, in addition to anything pop culture that is hot. And you don't necessarily make the best games yourself outside of burger, shakes, and fries. You know what I'm saying?
Nice driving game.
Yeah. You outside of that, you got the best driving game. You got one of the best first-person shooters. You know what I'm saying? I get it. And Gears was a budding franchise, but even that's getting a little old in the tooth and made people may have some issues.
Yeah.
You're meaning to tell me, like, how do you compete me? And again, and please educate for the people who are saying, please educate me on what that means if I don't make the necessarily best games. You know what I'm saying? What does investing in a bad singer that can't sing? You know what I mean? Like, we got to be real, y'all. Like, that's all I'm saying. How do you beat that? And they're the market leader. And everywhere you go, gaming is known as named as PlayStation. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to beat. I understand the strategy. You know what? We can't have this. Respectfully, Todd, I love you. But if the bag was big enough and Xbox did not acquire, modding or not, you know what I'm saying? If Xbox did not jump in, I could see the scenario where Starfield would have been where it's at. That's hard to beat, man. That's just another generation of you getting molly-whopped. Xbox One, bro, like, come on, we gotta be real. People keep acting like all you have to do, explain to me this game plan. Like, I would love to hear it. I would love someone to write and say, Cog, this is what I mean by investing. You do this, and then I'll be open and receptive. But from my standpoint, what I see doesn't seem realistic if you're serious about gaming, you need to own. And that's why I'm always biased towards that. And I am biased towards letting them operate the way they need to be so you don't come off as evil overlord. You know what I mean? We know they got to tighten up the pipeline. That's it. That's what I mean. I mean, bro, Starfield exclusive, I don't even...
Yeah.
It's really indefensible to me, but maybe I'm too close to the situation. Maybe I am.
Let's talk about another potential exclusive here. Matt Booty says a decision has yet to be made on the Outer Worlds 2's exclusivity. A little smaller one here, but Kai, do you read this as sort of it's best none of us really know the reality of the situation to kind of guide the court away? Like, oh, we haven't made a choice. I think this is obviously going to be exclusive, but we don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Look, I love Matt, love Phil. We know y'all finessing, right? Like, I gotta call Xbox. Phil was smoother with the Diablo joint. Did you see what he got out of that one? But he was like, because the FTC was basically negotiating for Sony. So now that you go say Call of Duty go over, would you go into Oath and say Diablo go over here? Would you go into Oath? I was like, yo, FTC, you bad aggressive. But to Phil and Booty's credit, they being smooth. Come on, man. We know damn well these joints gonna be exclusive, and they're finessing. There's no doubt, and I understand. Both sides are finessing right now. That's it.
This one's interesting. We never really got figures on what Microsoft will be paying for some of the studios they bought in 2018, and it's now said that they paid $117 million for Ninja Theory, which is absolutely going to turn out to be a steal if Hellblade 2 is anything close to the hit we expect it to be. That is remarkably cheap when you really look at it, what they are capable of producing. I imagine they're spending more on the game they're making right now than on the studio itself in 2018. What a steal if this ends up being a great game from them. What a steal. But Cog, your thoughts on the man who has his most anticipated 2024 game as Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga?
Look, they pull this off, man. This could be one of those, those draft picks, man, that came out of that small school.
I think
right?
of Henrik Lundqvist. I think of 7th round pick, best goalie the Rangers ever had.
But you went to the scouting, you went to the draft, you saw that potential, you saw the intangible, you saw the physicality, the size, the speed, and you're like, yo, they could punch with the big boys. They just need a budget. You know what I mean? I think that's Ninja Theory. And I think you're right. I think if they knock out Hellblade 2, that's why I'm so hard on them, because I see the potential. They could be, you know what I'm saying? Matty gets killed when he says the Naughty Dog line, but they could be in a class where they're, I'll just say, at one of the top studios.
They could be their Naughty Dog. Come on.
Yeah, okay, go on. He's standing on it. He's standing on it.
Until they deliver a really whack game, I'm going to stand on that one. And don't, like you with Starfield, I feel confident Starfield will be good. But like this is my don't let Matty be right. Because we got long-term storytelling and development now. Because y'all have pushed back, called me foolish. I've seen the name calling. Don't let the game be greatness. Sorry, Cog, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. You're good. I don't really have much to add. Those are bars that you spit. Look, we'll see. We all see the potential. And yeah, this could be one of their greatest acquisitions for that price, considering.
This is an email that when I saw, I was like, I can't believe we get to read shit like this. It's just tea being spilt, but it's so fascinating, especially as someone who's sat down, ate dinner, had chats with Pete Hines. I know he's a very frank dude. To see what he had to say here, I thought was great. We actually have 2 Pete Hines emails to read. This first one was sent to Jamie Letter, Todd Howard, and Todd Vaughn. He says, and the subject is Xbox blog post. This was February 10th, 2022. I'm confused. Is the below not the opposite of what we were just asked? And they put in parentheses, told to do with our own titles? What's the difference? Emphasis in bold is mine from this blog post yesterday. Here's what it wrote. First, some commentators have asked whether we will continue to make popular content like Activision's Call of Duty available on competing platforms like Sony's PlayStation. The obvious concern is that Microsoft could make this title available exclusively on the Xbox console, undermining opportunities for Sony PlayStation users. To be clear, Microsoft will continue to make Call of Duty and other popular Activision Blizzard titles available on PlayStation through the term of any existing agreement with Activision. And we have committed to Sony that we will make them available on PlayStation beyond the existing agreement and into the future so that Sony fans can continue to enjoy the games they love. We are also interested in taking similar steps to support Nintendo's successful platform. We believe this is the right thing to do for the industry, for gamers, and for our business. Pete Hines continues, did anyone at Xbox think about giving us a heads up on this? Todd's going to DICE in a couple of weeks. You don't think a journal might find him and press him on why the below is okay for Todd or for Call of Duty or any Activision Blizzard games, but not Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield, or at any/every future interview he does? Jose Vera writes in, hello, Dukes. We've had so much information come in from the FTC hearing. It's all been pretty spicy. For me, 2 points really stick out. The first, Booty has a lot more to say than I thought he would when it comes to talking about the direction of Xbox. The second, Pete Hines clearly upset with the treatment of ABK and exclusivity. I find these emails so interesting since we're getting the exact feelings and the day-to-day at these major companies. It does feel that if ABK goes through, they will to Xbox be what Bungie is to Sony now, a multi-plat, multiplayer publisher that gets a lot of clout, for better or for worse, within the Xbox ecosystem. Have for the love of all that is holy, may we stop talking about this damn deal kind of day. Jose, thank you, Jose, for writing in. This is really an interesting email here. Now, the way I think there's 2 ways you can receive it. The way Jose received it is one way. I think the other way you receive it is not being perturbed about the exclusivity of it all, but more so, hey, we're trying to protect our guy. Why didn't you tell us about this message coming through? And this underlines this kind of pat the thought I've had for these last few weeks, which is I fear with Xbox growing, the communication woes are very apparent with Bethesda. Granted, this is 2022. We're now in a post-Redfall world. They've swore they're going to try to shore up the defense on that. We know they've been working with Bethesda Game Studios more closely. I get all of that. But this is like one of my worries. This is something that I feel probably would have made a pass at Bethesda before going live on the Microsoft blog page, and it didn't. And so they're sitting there like, yo, what the hell? Not only probably confused about why are we told we got to be exclusive and they don't, but also, why don't you let us know? Because we got people who are very important who, like Todd, people are hungry to interview, and we don't want them getting pressed. We need to prep them with answers, right? So, Cog, what do you make of this very spicy email from Pete Hines at Bethesda?
I hate to laugh. This is funny to me. I don't know why this is just so funny to me, but all right. First of all, you nailed it with the part that people are not seeing, which is this is where I will concede when you get bigger, right? It is imperative that you communicate with your subsidiaries or any other publishers, anything that you own, because this is very critical if you want company synergy, right? If you want to be all on the same page. And I think you nailed the most important part, which is that he's like, hey, we got Todd about to go outside, right? If a journal approaches him and he's not media prepped about this Activision Blizzard King thing and why it does and why it doesn't apply, this could make them look foolish, right? And they want to be as prepared as possible. I do think that is the key underlying statement that you caught that a lot of people are not talking about here. And that is where I will agree with you. And we talked about the Redfall situation. We talked about pipeline. When you acquire, it behooves you to streamline a process that everyone is on the same page, because even though you are working independently, you are still owned and thus need to know what the mothership is doing. This is all North Star corporate cog talk. I'm giving y'all bars now. You know what I'm saying? You have to be aligned. So what I found funny, though, to me, is we realize just like Bungie is over on PlayStation Studios, and now potentially Activision Blizzard King will be with Xbox Game Studios, is y'all not created equal. And there are levels to this, because I can see someone say, but yo, how come our choice is exclusive and their choice is for the streets? You know what I'm saying? So I get that. And to your point, I don't think it's necessarily, but the fact that he bolded it.
Yeah.
Ooh, Pete he was hot. What's this, fam? What does this mean? Kind of energy. But I do agree, that they have to tighten that up. And we get a firsthand account back then. Right now, since then, hopefully things have improved.
We're just hoping, by the way.
Especially post Redfall. We hope, right? We hope. I agree. I will give y'all this. Anyone who's against acquisition, I will give y'all this. COG will not push back on this. This is very critical. You need to have this if you are to have corporate synergy. Absolutely.
Well, we got more Pete Hines emails. This one I thought was just kind of interesting because it gives us a little bit of insight to the development process of Indiana Jones and maybe how the internal goings-ons are before an announcement. So this was an email from Pete Hines to Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, Jarrett West, alongside Aaron Losey and Aaron Greenberg. He wrote, spoke with Aaron earlier today and updated him on this topic. We decided it was best to start with this small group. First, Justin asked to not share this information with others, at least not unless Phil gives the okay. I prefer to keep it to a small group as possible to avoid any leaks, and we have done the same here at Bethesda. We are planning to announce Project Relic next Tuesday. As a reminder, Project Relic is an original Indiana Jones game not tied to films, developed by Machine Games and executive produced by Todd Howard, who has been trying to get this game made for over a decade. If you don't know, Todd might be the biggest Indiana Jones fan on the planet. I'm not exaggerating even a little. Anyone who has seen the pitch has immediately said, oh my God, I have to play that game right now. It's going to be amazing, and we think the reaction to the announcement is going to be terrific. That's some mighty confidence internally, man. I'm excited for the game just off that alone. I know some people are saying like, oh, it's the corporate saying it, but it's not the corporates putting it out on Twitter trying to hype their product up so you buy it. This is like internal high ups, like everyone's seeing this. They want to play it. We think it's going to be amazing. Let's do this thing, right? I love this type of energy. So we're going from one end of the spectrum of Pete Hines to the other, but COG, what do you make of Todd wanting this game to be made for over a decade? And now here we are. It's obviously been announced, and the internal swagger that they got about Indiana Jones for Machine Games.
Look, this just all this kind of takes me back to when I was out there for the Game Fest and in the Xbox Showcase, and I met Pete. I remember it was my first time ever meeting him. I've never met him until that time.
Stand up, dude. And, love him.
Yeah, like I like the energy, bro.
Very transparent dude. Yeah.
Bro, he just gave me so much time, and we just hung out for a little bit, and just talking Starfield was dope. So I just got straight shooter. I just got that. That was what it was. Oh, look, this is what we're going to do. This. And the energy radiated. So when I read this, I could just see him verbalizing it. Like, yo, I'm telling you right now, Todd, you don't have no idea how much he loved this game. This game is going to be straight fight. When people see it, it's going to be crazy. For them to pop off like that, I'm going to be real with you, Matty. Prior to this, not that I thought Indiana Jones was going to be a bad game, but I was just going to go, I just got to see how they approach it. We know Machine Games pedigree. But reading this now took me up now. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm getting into it. I'm really getting into it. I wasn't, not that I wasn't sold, but this energy I love to see. Mm-hmm. So now, they got me. And again, this is the beauty of this case is we're getting so much tidbits, regardless of how this thing plays out.
And what I find very interesting, sorry to interrupt you.
No, please go. I've been talking.
I was going to say, what I find really interesting is that very little mention of Machine Games in this email and like what they're going to do. Just like, yo, it's Todd's project. This is a game Todd's wanted to make for a while. And like, this is his vision. So I kind of excused his vision at first, saying like, oh, he's executive producing. That typically means he's just going to check in on the project. But it sounds like he has more of a hands-on kind of role, which has me very, very excited to see what this ends up being.
I got to bring it back and come for Matty now.
Because
one side, we hype about Todd. Look how excited he is. We were like, yo, what's Machine Games and why we ain't getting Wolfenstein 3? Todd project. We knew about Todd's wanting to get this done from way back, and then it kind of fell through, and now it come back. And now you got Todd so excited about this. Are we going to tell Todd, yo, stop doing that. Get in there and make that Elder Scrolls.
I'm not saying you got to hustle him. He's going to make ES6. We know he's going to. I'm saying that you got to figure out the spin-offs. The main lines have to come from the family.
You
have to come from the family.
I should have said Elder Scrolls. I was wrong.
No, I didn't speak clear enough. That's on me. But yeah, I'm just saying again, I think Bethesda needs to just figure out, yes, we're going to handle our Fallout 5, our Elder Scrolls 6 here at home. What can we do to address with strategic fun partnerships, different Fallout experiences that we can't provide, but others could, that keep the franchise up and alive, but not Elder Scrolls 6, not Fallout 5, right?
And my only comment, do you see how excited this man is about this game? This man can't. You got Pete Blovey. Could you imagine how Todd feels if Todd, like, it's hard when we've had the Sawyers on. We heard about Druckmann. It's hard when they're passionate about something.
I get it. I'm sympathetic.
They're razor focused guys. You know what I'm saying?
There are companies that are passionate about Fallout and Elder Scrolls, and I'm sure Starfield will follow suit. That's all I'm saying. Todd can be passionate for Starfield and Indiana Jones. Like, I get it. That's like me making my own thing and then also having like a Star Wars project on the side, and people are like, well, go make this other thing instead. It's like, you figure out the in-betweens, right? You got to make it a priority, Bethesda. You got to. It's not excusable anymore.
Forget Todd's dream. Do what I want.
Bury that dream, man. Bury it.
You know I'm teasing you.
No, it's fine. Don't mind. Sony's deal for Call of Duty includes only one more game. The document says the following, quote, "The last game covered by the contract is a Call of Duty title to be released in late 2023, unquote. Kotick has said that the game will not leave PlayStation as Activision does not wish to alienate 100 million active players. And it was also revealed that the Call of Duty franchise has made over $27 billion since its inception." So that speaks for itself on why Xbox is paying so much. But one deal left on the contract. Any thoughts on this one? I'm kind of null on any thoughts here. Just see how it plays out.
What I've heard, if the deal is to go through, expect Microsoft to, act aggressively as a result. So, this is critical.
You mean as in like rein it in, kind of, and
expect Microsoft to be extremely aggressive if this deal goes in their favor. And this is a key point as far as, PlayStation. And again, Jim Ryan's, people think I've always trashed it, so I'd be defended. Like, I get it, bro. You got 1 year left on this deal. This is the most revenue. I don't know if we're going to get to did we include the 15% revenue part or how much they made?
I have the revenue split, the 80-20. Is that what you're talking about?
PlayStation made the statement that came out that their first party only represents 15% of their profit. Like when they had Jim on the joint, they had Jim on the stand. So again, it all ties back to Call of Duty and this revenue and why it's so important for them. And I get it. You're going down without a fight. You're not trying to give up this money. Status quo at all costs. So this is critical, man. This is so much money on the table for everybody. Microsoft with the potential revenue, PlayStation with the lost revenue, Bobby with parachute revenue. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's trying to float on out of here, Mary Poppins. Man. Like, You remember the Guardians joint? Like, bro, the stakes are high. Everybody be clear. That's why this is the case of the century. Like, what's going to happen? It's really critical. I know it's nauseating for the listeners sometimes, but it is important, these nuggets that we're getting.
I agree. IO Interactive's Project Dragon has been confirmed by a document. Xbox exclusive. Not Skywalker writes in. Finest Duke's Project Dragon is back on the menu for Xbox Global Publishing. The latest seemingly unnecessary evidence submitted by the FTC suggests IO Interactive's fantasy project will indeed be Xbox published and naturally console exclusive. 007, per the same report, is still without platforms. Lastly, IO Interactive was targeted in 2019 as a potential acquisition candidate, largely for their strong, player-friendly service support of Hitman 3 and later World of Assassination. How do you all feel about this? And would you be excited to see Xbox further its relationship with the talented IO Interactive Studios? Wishing you the best in your health, personal lives, and backlog, Aiden. Thank you. We appreciate you, Not Skywalker. Always writing in.
Yeah.
Project Dragon back on the menu. We saw a little bit of a balk by Jez Corden. He was like, no, it might not actually be. He might have said things a little bit too early. Things change. Documents obviously shift. But now we see in the latest evidence submitted by the FTC, Project Dragon will be Xbox exclusive. I'm gonna throw out a little. I think they try to lock down 007 too. I'm just gonna say, I feel like Xbox, if you're looking at, we'll talk about Perfect Dark in a little bit, but they want a spy thriller, espionage focused game. They want that as a pillar. Like that is something, a genre they want. That answer is probably going to be there a little bit sooner than your own. Just a thought. I think they might go for it. More of that pop culture assimilation that's not necessarily Marvel DC, but is a well-known figure. So I completely off topic, but Project Fantasy, this newly announced, like we already had the official look at it, is going to be Xbox exclusive. How do you feel about this partnership with IO Interactive? Because I love Hitman 3. Like that was my game of the year in 2021. Bro, there's a level in there for something manner. I'm forgetting what it's called, but something manner. Bro, I put like 15 hours into that level alone. Like it is masterful how replayable their games are. So shout out to IO Interactive. I'm very excited to see them do a fantasy RPG. Are you kidding me? Sounds amazing on paper, but Cog, your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, IO is just, they're special to me too. Like they're like playing Hitman 3, I just wowed by level design and the multiple approaches on the way you can do something, the timing, the dialogue, the natural. IO, and then I'm a stealth guy, so IO hits so many notes for me. Graphical fidelity, I always felt is strong from them. I could see a scenario where the relationship, bolsters. I was surprised about the exclusivity, but what we're learning through this case is that Microsoft has made adjustments as far as when they're working, they're making these deals. They want the exclusivity. This is how they're trying to slowly, combat in conjunction with the ownership,
but
right?
According to a certain person, they don't love doing that.
Yeah, of course. No one likes Game Pass. Yeah,
we don't love that side of the world.
No one loves money being received up front and mitigating risk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I digress. But no, look, this is dope. I like IO. I'm with it. Let's see if that relationship for 007. Let's go. Like, I like this. This is always a target I've always felt made sense, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, they're on the cock-approved list. So I like
Indeed. Mm-hmm. Xbox had admitted to losing the console wars during this trial, which since the very inception, they said they've been in third place. They've just been fighting to catch up. They can't win. So they officially admitted internally they lost the console wars. What are our thoughts on this, Cog? Are we seeing a little bit of, we lost. I feel bad for us. Let the deal go through. Are we seeing a little bit of that energy here?
Of course. It is true. I mean, they did lose it, but it's just like they're in a unique spot because they're the loser, but they are very strong financially.
Yeah, you're still making billions. That's a pretty great L to take.
Exactly. So you're still profitable. You're still, I get it, but we know they're going to incorporate a little bit here and, feign strength, and we know what's going on. I get it. Do what you got to do.
Satya Nadella, we had a little Easter egg earlier, spoke on exclusivity, and he said, quote, I would love to get rid of the entire exclusives on consoles, but that is not for me to define, especially as a low share player in the console market that the dominant player, Sony, has defined market competition using exclusives. I have no love for that world, end quote. So it's a little finger pointing. Don't look at us, look at them.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know a bullshitter when we see one. And Satya just doing his part. He's just being a team player here. He knows the business reality. He knows that this side of the business is never going to go away. But it's trying to make Microsoft look better for locking things down. So any added thoughts on what Satya had to say here?
Retaliation. Retaliation. They're doing this to us, so we're doing this to them. Yeah. That's literally what it is.
We got some aspirations for Microsoft as well. They wish to make Xbox reach global games industry leadership by 2030 and double the total Xbox gaming revenues across the next 7-year timeframe. So certainly they have ambitious plans internally, probably involving more acquisitions, thus escalating what Game Pass can do, putting it on more screens. So they're trying to reach new heights. You can say what you will about their current leadership core, but I think they want to see this brand really thrive and they're passionate about it. So good to see that they're really invested on this level.
Yeah, I mean, that's where they're going. And I mean, Satya even mentioned, utilizing cloud as a, like a socket, like a conduit to what people, and again, in fairness, this is something that they can leverage. That is strong that regulators do have to take a look at. I'm not going to minimize that. I've always been consistent. The thing that I was worried about them if they lose is cloud and how they can leverage that strength of theirs with the service. That is worth looking at. And it's worth investigating and saying, hey, we need some concessions and assurances from you and your big cloud, so that you don't get crazy and no one else could compete. I understand that sentiment. I never looked at that as crazy. I've always said it wasn't Call of Duty as much for me. That was the issue. It was cloud. And then obviously the mobile footprint is clearly important to them.
Sarah Bond takes the stand. She said two very interesting things here. We'll bang them both out at once. Number one, she said that Activision forced Microsoft into a new Call of Duty revenue deal. Originally, Activision refused to work on a Series S and X version of Call of Duty until this revenue deal was reached. Sarah had also stated that Microsoft agreed to 80-20 revenue splits in some games where Xbox believes, quote, it is critical to get that content, end quote. Bobby Kotick twisting arms out here, man. Some mobster lifestyle we got.
Whoa, he went to the kingdom and made the queen bend the knee? That's some Game of Thrones. You gonna bend the knee in front of everybody? Bro, I'm telling you, this is gangster right here. What? You made Microsoft? Like, that's wild to me. Like, so yeah, like, yo, we not working on those Series S and X. What? Yo! Like, yeah, we had to capitulate. Mm-hmm. Yo, powerful stuff. It goes to show you Bobby's out here. And again, we can't minimize for the people with this invest in yourself talk. When PlayStation is the market leader, and they are willing to do exclusive. Activision was willing to make the biggest game exclusive to PlayStation and said, if you don't give us, that's a stick up where I'm from, bro. If you don't give us more money, you're not getting it. So what about the contract? Rewrite it. What more do people need to understand here? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, again, not woe is us, $1 trillion company, but let's be fair, right? Let's be fair based on the scenario. They have the biggest game in gaming, telling one of the biggest companies to lay down and stay down or else. Gangster.
Yeah, no, you're right. Valve was happy without a Call of Duty agreement, it was revealed, and believed Xbox would actually provide the game on Steam regardless of that. So the relationship there is strong. Anything you want to throw out there on that?
Surprising. Shout out to Gabe and the team. I mean, they just so friendly. I guess what it is I am surprised because, historically the way Steam moves and stuff like that, but it goes to show you how Microsoft has really improved that relationship. And if I had to guess, it stems from day and date PC and putting games on Steam They're getting the revenue from Xbox games now on there. And that, because at one point, I know for a fact this relationship wasn't that great back in the day. And it took a while to improve, and then they got to a good place. So the fact that those are the homies. We'd have did that without a deal. We good. Like, okay, Steve. Like, I didn't know it was lit like that. So salute to that. That was actually positively surprising.
This last one I just found super funny. We're finally at the end of all this, Cog. So it's an exchange between Jim Ryan and Microsoft's lawyer. And I just thought it was too good to not share. Microsoft lawyer says, do you think it would be better if Microsoft kept Activision games on PlayStation? To which Jim Ryan said, yes, I do. The Microsoft lawyer then said, so do you believe it's in Microsoft's best interest to make Activision games available on multiple platforms? Jim Ryan said, no, I don't agree with that. So then the Microsoft lawyer presses a little bit further. So if you were running Xbox, would you recommend making Call of Duty and other Activision games exclusive to Xbox and PC? Ryan says, that's a hypothetical question that I don't wish to answer. And the Microsoft lawyer said, so you don't get to answer? And Jim Ryan says, I don't have enough knowledge to answer that question. Obviously, he's doing the right thing here. Like, he's not going to let it be like, well, obviously, I'd lock that shit down. What are you talking about, Microsoft lawyer? Obviously, he's not going to do that. But I just thought the nature of the interaction, the writings on the wall, I don't know if PlayStation would actually lock down Call of Duty. I think we have reason to believe they would, but obviously, he's not going to go out and say that. But I just thought this exchange was pretty funny and kind of showed the writing on the wall and how would things would be. That's a hypothetical, sir. We don't need to speak in hypotheticals here in the court of law. We don't need to speak about hypotheticals. Come on now.
But that man was coached well.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, not much else to say. It was absolutely a funny moment, kind of thing. So yeah, he ain't going to incriminate himself. We know what's going on. We know, in my opinion, damn well if the role was reversed, you're going to lock it down. But that's just me. Yeah, that's just what I feel.
So that's it right now. We'll certainly have much more to talk about next week. Again, probably in the terms of will the injunction be granted? And I'm sure a couple of things may spill out afterwards, but that's the bulk of it. Those are the major heavy hitters from all the Xbox execs, Jim Ryan, FTC. A lot of tea spilled here. Absolutely fascinating discourse. Yes. Truly, like, just we dream of these types of things as commentators. Like, we guess, what are they saying in the emails? Like, we dream of and joke about the reactions and the interactions. And then we get to actually see, like, wouldn't Xbox want to let us know about this? Things like that. To me, I think it's so cool to see them all pouring out, where, again, I don't care about the verdict. I'm just like, we got a ton of great data here, which I love to utilize. So shout out to the FTC. They're good for something.
They're good for something. No, facts. Yeah, if you care about how the industry works truly and how people truly feel about each other, this is fantastic stuff. Again, if you care about that stuff, it's really cool.
So with that, Cog, any other thoughts, or shall we move into number 2?
Not much else. We done hit it all. Crazy week. What is it? Deliberations. I know as we recorded, we'll maybe closing arguments, excuse me. And hopefully next week we'll see what happens. That's going to be, next week will be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
Indeed it shall. Indeed it shall. We'll either be popping bottles or the entire Microsoft HQ will light ablaze as a riot takes over.
It's going to get crazy.
Let's shift our attention to Perfect Dark in number 2. Perfect Dark was revealed at 2020's Game Awards and has gone dark since then. Outside of reports that most of the original staff had left the project, nothing official has been said beyond head of Xbox Game Studios Matt Booty stating that there's a playable build and he's excited about what they're making. Well, we have another report, and this time it's from IGN. For starters, Perfect Dark was said to be revealed before the team had any idea of gameplay mechanics or what they were even making at the time. Unfortunately, since that trailer, little progress is said to have been made, as developers working on the game have told IGN that the title is still in the earliest stages of development and is likely 2 to 3 years away from release. Interestingly, the report also looks to firm up the misinformation surrounding Perfect Dark being a quadruple-A video game. Instead, employees within the building did use the term quadruple-A to define the scale and scope of the Perfect Dark game they were making, as studio head Daryl Gallagher envisioned a spy thriller with major set pieces, including lots of physicality, and drawing comparisons to the like of Game of Thrones and even Westworld thanks to its eco-futuristic setting. In a plot twist for Duke listeners, the team originally helping make Perfect Dark a reality was none other than the team rumored to be working on a Halo Battle Royale mode as well as an Xbox exclusive Monster Hunter style title, and this team was Certain Affinity. From there, ideas of the game's effective look were prototyped and scrapped ad nauseum. The first 3 years went like this as leadership could not effectively communicate a proper direction for this title to go in. The fingers began to be pointed at Certain Affinity, and the initiative began to have a falling out of sorts. The report suggests that the mismatch was in Certain Affinity requiring a clearer direction and this initiative wanting to bounce ideas off a creative partner. Combine that with Certain Affinity outnumbering their client alongside senior level employees butting heads creatively, and this is what you get. Here's what one developer had to say on the matter. Quote, "It was not that we didn't know what we wanted, it was that we kept making things that weren't what we wanted," said one initiative developer. "We do it over and over again. The levels we had when I left weren't the same ones we had 3 months prior or 3 months prior to that. I don't know why people just kept hitting the reset button. That was definitely contributing to the feeling that we weren't making any progress. People kept starting over," end quote. The pandemic hit, and like many developers out there, it served as a setback. Come spring 2021, there was a proof of concept for Perfect Dark, including unfinished levels, basic traversal, gadgets, and combat. Reportedly, neither side was happy in the wake, and Certain Affinity as well, as the initiative were joyful to not renew their contract to work together for another year. Shortly thereafter, departures hit as 47 people left in the span of a year and change from the initiative, all the way up to Drew Murray, who served as the game's director. During the stretch, one developer recalled, quote, "literally doing nothing," end quote, for almost 9 months on the game as they awaited key decisions to be made. In the middle of 2021 arrives Crystal Dynamics, who is still the initiative's co-development partner to this day. Before their arrival, the initiative opted to hop into Unreal Engine 5, only making matters more complicated with the, quote, "mess," end quote, that was handed to Crystal Dynamics in the completed vertical slice that they made alongside Certain Affinity. A source tells IGN that almost all of it ended up needing to be completely reworked. While crunch never kicked in, there was a fear lingering across both teams as a focus on speed and hitting deadlines was made, given the lack of meaningful progress over the years. As of now, the report states that this is more of Crystal Dynamics' game than the initiative. The reporter reached out to all 3 involved teams and learned that Xbox has been, quote, "remarkably hands-off," end quote, with this project. And one person described their involvement as, quote, "giving us money and letting us decide how to move forward and requesting milestone updates," end quotes, which is quite standard. Head of Xbox Game Studio, Matt Booty, had thoughts on the matter. Quote, "I will just chuckle a little bit at the hands-off. The amount of time I've spent on the phone with Daryl and everybody at the studio is sort of the opposite of hands-off in the amount that we've been down there," end quote. Matt said that he could be on the phone every day with Gallagher, and the standard employees would be none the wiser. He also confirmed that the pandemic combined with the mismatch between the initiative and Certain Affinity didn't help the game's already stagnant progress. Despite this, he claims that they have had a full review of the game in May and that the new partners have hit their rhythm. Sean Sunarud writes in, "Hi Dukes, I'll keep this simple and to the point. Just WTF is going on with the initiative in Perfect Dark. It seems to be really stuck in limbo, with it being 3 years since its reveal, and it's looking no closer to being released." Okay, Cog, a lot there. Huge expose, huge read. Shout out to IGN for a great write-up here. A lot we kind of expected, but where do you want to jump off of this conversation, man? I mean, we already knew it was in trouble, but is this surprising you how much trouble it truly is in? Certain Affinity kind of being the big plot twist here.
Yeah, didn't know that. Didn't know
Long-term partnership. Also wasn't on the watch list, by the way. So
it wasn't on the watch list. Yeah. I mean, this is interesting because I'm of 2 mindsets here. First, let's talk about the obvious. What the hell's going on with this game? Right? Like we've been waiting. We saw the thing, the initial trailer. Okay, we're thinking things are going to start to cook. They're going to get into a stride. And then all we hear is now Crystal Dynamics is now in on the project and we get this mass exodus. I remember, like I was just saying, some of the biggest names in the industry, like besides this project, were leaving. So we're like, yo, what is going on? And I've always felt kind of like a mutiny. That was what I was like. Me and our people, we used to have jokes. We used to come in, we like, yo, dudes came in with Crystal D shirts and was like, yo, we gonna take over now. Like that was the joke.
They do say in the report that this is more of a Crystal Dynamics game now than the Initiative.
That was our joke, because to me, Gallagher always, he was Crystal Dynamics. That's his history. He's one of the visionaries in the game. His name is associated with some of the biggest games, but Crystal Dynamics was his baby. The Tomb Raiders, a lot of the stuff, his baby games I really love. So for the record, I do have a bias towards Daryl Gallagher. I'm just going to be clear, so anybody, y'all could come for me and say, look, please, y'all, please do. I'm very protective of our legends. One thing you'll be consistent with, like Todd Howard slander, anyone. If you a person who made critical, I don't care who you are, Last of Us, Druckmann, I got a respect for you because you made some very impactful games in the culture, and I want to respect that. So Gallagher, his resume, I'm sorry, I am going to defer to the legend. Now, what the question here to me is, why were they matched up with certain affinity to begin with? That I want to know. I don't know if that came out in the expose.
It didn't, but I mean, based off what we learned about the Initiative over the years, they're kind of the startup idea factory, and then they kind of leave the workhorse load to the company. That was our understanding of the relationship with Crystal Dynamics. So I imagine it was much of the same with certain affinity.
Right.
I think a part of it is when, your first thought when they're like, we're building a studio from the ground up in 2018, right? Your first thought is, they're going to be making the game themselves, right? So we're just learning about this kind of backwards. Like, they never really explained the studio vision. Not that they're going to do that on the E3 stage the year it was announced, but even in interviews, it wasn't until major development woes hit and leaks and reports that we started to get some sort of picture on what they are as a team, which sounds like they were supposed to come up with ideas and then kind of pitch out, right? That seemed to be the vision for the studio, which is strange for first party, for sure.
Yeah, definitely different. And we thought at the time, this is the new way of development. Remember that was the talk, right? Like, you just have this smaller team that they pitch out, and it's almost like contractor team that does the work that you envision. So now that the certain fit, look, I'm not gonna make excuses on it. This is first party, right? This is part of the stuff that we've been talking about as far as track record and showcasing that you have the ability to make something quality on your own, right? No excuse. This is a fumble right now. The game now seems to be getting a start over, right? This is a fumble. We ain't going to sugarcoat it. But what I will say is, I personally do like the fact that Gallagher is, no disrespect to certain affinity, respect, love. But I do like the fact that Gallagher is going to work with people he is actually familiar with and worked with in Crystal Dynamics. And it makes I ain't going to lie. Crystal Dynamics games, say what you want, graphical fidelity, just one energy. They up my, like hey, so that's where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's unfortunate that it's taken this long. I don't necessarily, like, Booty push back on the hands off, it seems, right? Where he's like, yo, I'm on the phone with Daryl every day. And that very well.
I like that he pushed back on this, by the way. I was very happy to see that, like, no, we're involved. Like, that's the type of thing I think they've let the narrative run pretty free.
Right. So to me, I just look at this as Daryl put his meat on the table and said, this is what I want. I'm paraphrasing. I'm guessing. This is what I want to execute. Who's in, who's out. And dudes is like, nah, that's not what we was building. I'm out. All right, cool. Crystal D shirts. Let's go. And they marched in. Again, I'm being silly and I'm just guessing. But that's how I'm gonna side with Gallagher, bro. I am. It's like you tell me Todd Howard made a studio. You tell me, and then you got another, no disrespect to certain affinity. And they make great stuff. But if there's creative differences in development, somebody's got to lose. No matter how much the clout is. And I think that's what happened here. And it's unfortunate. But last part I'll say, this goes to show you why I cannot defend anyone who says, yo, I can't fight against anyone who says, yo, they got a first party problem. They need to fix it. I can't fight that. These are real life examples with their own. This is their studio. 343 is their studio. And until they make a quality game, then I could say, okay, I could come back a little bit. Right now, I got to shut up. This is what it is. We don't know what this game is going to be until it's actually out.
I'm very surprised that this wasn't an initiative that was shut down. I mean, I'm not advocating for it, but I'm very surprised after all this time. You announced the studio in 2018, you build up, you announce a game that they, I know this is the product of Xbox's desperation. We're learning just that they were forking out these announcements because they needed to tell people like, yeah, we're doing more than just the Forza Gears. And they became the company that we know for like 3 years. Just wait next year, bro. Just wait next year, bro. Just wait next year, bro. So I get why it was pre-announced, even if they didn't have an idea of what the game would be. But that doesn't make it more forgivable. And then when there were such major challenges, and only now you're thinking the game's kind of getting to its rhythm, I'm very surprised that they're hanging around on this one. Not advocating for the shutting down of studios or letting go of talent, but when you amass what would be called an all-star squad in industry level talent, and I get it, when you have too many 5-star chefs in the kitchen, you're going to have those differences, right? You got to have a chain of command. There has to be a pecking order. I've always been an advocate of that. I know people don't like to hear that, but that's how things got to be. There has to be an order to the operations. Otherwise, you have what happened here. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it, man. When you see half your team leave, that's not just like, oh, we got some creative difference. That's like people are like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. This is a horrible place to work within because there's no clear direction. The fact that someone, even I usually don't like to run away with the one developer said, because that's what most of these articles are, right? One person said one thing and we run a mile with it. But when one person says, I did pretty much nothing for 9 months at the team, that's inexcusable, lacking of direction, lacking of what you want your game to be. I just don't know how they ever let it get to that point. And that was during the stretch where they were working on the vertical slice that would then be handed off and completely reworked. The other thing I want to get into is this quadruple A thing. I remember posting a tweet when the Crystal Dynamics partnership was announced. I said something along the lines of, I'm not quoting myself exactly, but I was like, does anyone else find it kind of weird that we have an Xbox first party studio that's announcing commitments to partnerships here, especially when you claimed you're a quadruple A game? Oh boy, that second part of the statement were fighting words. I realized then. Now, I distinctly remember I'm not making excuses for my behavior. I remember I was in a bad place mentally. I was letting some dudes feel my fucking wrath that day.
You just giving it up.
My dog passed away 2 days later for anyone who needed context.
I remember. Yes,
but
I do remember.
That doesn't excuse things, but just so people have context for my behavior, because I don't fly off the handle. But some dudes were getting in my way that day, and I was letting them have it. So I remember people battling me, though, and saying, like, no, it's not quadruple A. That was just a marketing slip-up. And insiders even said, no, we got to clarify this. It's a marketing slip up. I'm like, how are you telling me that quadruple A is just going to come out of fucking thin air? That some dude writing the job description is going to say, let me add a fourth A to this shit. And now we learned here, if we're to believe it, which I know sometimes when I say if we're to believe it, it's a report from Kotaku and people don't give it that much. We're talking about an IGN report here. I think we can give it a little bit more credibility. If we're to believe this was a studio swagger type of statement. This was your BioWare magic of the initiative, if you need a comparison. Like, we're making not triple A, we're making quadruple A. We're making a big different style game. There's a whole section here on just the confidence and the feeling and what they were trying to make and how they were defining it. This was their BioWare magic. And all I'm saying is a lot of people come to the front of the comment boy section. I will happily take my victory lap around whatever you got to say about me right now down below. Please fire away, because this was not like a Matty was right. But when I remember just seeing people fight back and fight back and fight back, and I'm just like, this shit doesn't just appear. This wasn't just one Microsoft employee just saying, you know what would be kind of appealing for this entry level programming position? Let's fucking put a fourth A here. What sense does that make? So I've been on a revenge mission here between I'm righting the wrongs of my past, man. I'm like Clive from fucking Final Fantasy 16. I'm righting these wrongs because it was the 2021 Starfield release day. I'm righting that wrong because that was the one I got blasted for the most. And yeah, I'm going to clean up this mess too while I'm at it. Right now, I'm looking pretty goddamn spotless, and I'm proud of that. So pardon me as I take out my mop and just start cleaning the floors here a little bit here at the Defining Duke HQ. Cog, any other things you have to say about the quadruple A nature of the game and how they were speaking about the game internally?
Look, man, I got to give you your flowers. I remember that. I remember that was the talk. And, I remember at the time it was like, no, it was just a LinkedIn post. It was only the, HR mistake or whatever. That was the talk. So to see, this IGN article come out, which literally confirmed what you've been saying, that the employees were even utilizing that terminology in the building. Because to your point, the term doesn't just come out of thin air for HR or marketing or whoever's putting a post up to you. So you're validated. There's no question. And to me, what I think of that is that at the time they had amassed so much talent. It's like, we got the all-star team here. We got Daryl on my left. We got Certain Affinity on our right. You know what I'm saying? They was the names that we heard. We were like, I remember the signings. We were like, look what game that person worked on. Oh my God. This game. I remember the energy. So if fans were feeling that, imagine an all-star cast of developers all assigned to a project together. And they're like, we're going to kill this, right? Mm-hmm. So, it makes sense. And it's unfortunate. But, and from the first-party standpoint, COG will not fight you. I'll fight you at acquisition, but I won't fight you on first-party mismanagement situations. This is definitely one of them. And I will say this, though, on defense. I feel more confident with Gallagher and Initiative than I do with 343. I still feel more confident. As crazy as that sounds.
Wow.
As crazy as that sounds, I feel more confident.
I'm interested.
Because my thing is, look, shout out to Pierre. Is it Pierre Heinz?
I say hints. From what I've heard in interviews and stuff, it's hints.
So Pierre, right? Homie, salute. No disrespect. You're the fixer that you are amazing at with Master Chief Collection. All I'm concerned about is what is going to come after. But no stating that, to me, that's huge. Master Chief, huge. With Gallagher, look, I get it. It's rough sailing, conflict. It's a bad look. Dudes in there working out. It reminds me a little bit of BioWare, but at least leadership has stayed the same. I remember with BioWare, what's our man? I love him with the mullet. That's Casey my man. Hudson, but Casey Hudson left, came back. We ain't seeing none of that. To me, this is, again, not make excuses, but this is Daryl, meat on the table, refining his visions. If you in, you in. If you out, you out. And if not, you don't like it? Crystal D, let's go. Bring forth. So again, that's how I look at it. Right? I could be wrong. I don't know. I have all the information. You know what I'm saying? So I'm more confident with a visionary with a more refined vision. And video games is hard to make, man. We starting to see, bro, Naughty Dog just got told, that ain't it. Naughty Dog got told what you did ain't it. Sorry. Go back to the drawing board. And Sony said, you're right. That ain't it. Go back to the drawing board. Bungie said. So come on, we not going to act like game development is not hard. It's just that Microsoft got all the leaks in the world and we get to see all that dirt. Like Sony got it bulletproof. I'm not going to make it. That's what about it. Let me stop with the what about. There's a little bit of what about it. Sorry. But I just feel that I'm more confident with the Todd Howards, the Daryl Gallaghers, even Kojima's. There's certain people you just got to give that and let them see, let them go through. And I granted, it don't look good for you. And if this game flop, they gonna come for you, Daryl. After all this you done did, they gonna come for you if this game ain't it. But I'm pulling. I think he got a shot. And again, no disrespect to Pierre. I just feel your job is harder. That's a franchise that ain't yours. You coming in to clean up like that's. You know what I mean?
Last Jedi syndrome, baby. Here we go.
We'll see. But I hope I would love to see how this plays out between 343 and Initiative and who, if I'm right or if I'm wrong. It's a fun little internal bet I have myself.
We shall see. But that is what's going on right now with the Initiative in Perfect Dark. I'm sure we won't get an update until probably like 2 summer showcases from now. So as we said in our fallout of the summer showcase episode, just again, don't expect this game until 2026. Like it's not going to be around for a hot minute. Last little bit of news here. This was going to be, if we could have worked the production side of things, our front runner for the last episode. But here we are, and it's our last item because of just how monumental this week has been for Xbox. Todd Howard did a little interview with Kinda Funny Xcast. I just want Xbox, come a little closer and listen to me. It's the Duke's time. We are not playing small ball anymore. Please hook us up.
Bro, we done put in the work. Yeah, I love both of us individually. We know how we get down. Let's stop playing. Let's get over in the realm of the Dukes, and let's have these quality interviews. Because y'all gonna have fun, and we gonna have fun too.
I say this because we've been asking for a while. So
yes, we have.
So we love the Xcast boys. No taking anything away from them.
No bite.
But as Cog said last week, I think it was when I was talking about like a hypothetical Todd interview, closed mouth doesn't get fed. I've been shooting my shots. I'm going to continue to. I'm going to make it a little public. That's all.
Let's go.
No offense taken, but just Xbox. I know you listen. We would love to have the opportunity to talk to some of your bigwigs. We would love it.
Absolutely. We got to shoot it. 100.
Let's talk about what Todd Howard had to say now. I went down the entire interview. I plucked out the brand new details. So let's start off with accessibility settings. And if you have anything to say, Cog, we'll pop in. Larger font mode. It's going to be there. How are we feeling about that?
Old heads. Yes. Please. Yes. Fonts. Yes.
I like
people with glasses.
I like it because the second one was a question they asked. I thought it was a great one because I never even thought of it. Steam Deck compatibility. And Todd said, we'll talk about that later down the road. Now with the large font mode, fits pretty well with handheld. However, Bethesda just announced that their partner for Starfield on PC is AMD. And I have this theory that I think, do you have the handheld with you, sir?
Oh, damn, it's another round. I wish I had it.
Man, okay.
I would have pulled it out right now. I had the Ally ready for you, bro. I wanted to quickly get it.
The ROG Ally, the ROG, we call it. I think that's going to be the Starfield handheld. I truly think it's going to be. That shit will drain your battery in a minute, but
in a second.
I think it'll be. Bro. That's where the Starfield will be at home on handheld.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because AMD RSR mode, which is their equivalent of FSR, which is a game changer. Let me tell you why. Because bring the resolution down, you can get plus 60 frame rates. And it up-reses it to look from 720 to 1080p. So you're not even noticing no graphical difference. It is a game changer. I believe it's RDNA 3 on it. So even though it's a that handheld, man, and larger fonts now, I actually look for them all the time with games on the island. I'm like, oh my God, larger fonts.
I remember when the Switch first came out, that was a big problem with their games. The font was like this small, man. So tiny.
Yeah, because they're not designed for those screens. But yeah, man, this is huge for Ally users. I can't wait. And I've tested my Bethesda games, all work. I know I got Ghostwire going and Deathloop going. So I got the offline mode situation is resolved.
Let's go. Todd Howard did confirm that there will be no fishing in Starfield.
Rest in peace, Jess Gordon.
I was kind of happy to see this. Call me masochist. I was kind of happy to see this. I think so many AAA games are by the numbers. Like you got to have your fishing. I said in my videos, like you got to have your fishing and you got to be able to pet the dog. It's like these are staples in games now. I'm like, can we focus on shit that actually matters? Come on. I'm sorry. I'm going to say the tough part here. You don't need fishing in every game. I know Jez will throw a can of beans at me for that, but truly, I don't think you need fishing in every game. And Cog, with his talk on Destiny 2, is exactly why I say that, because now we're trying to build a loot loop around it and shit. Just let's focus on making new exciting stuff or reinventing old stuff, breathing new life into that. There's two ways we can do it. If you're going to do fishing, do it in a fun, unique way. But just this throwing a line, sitting there. That's not gaming. Come on.
In defense of Jez, he didn't rule it out for the future, though.
That is true.
But right now he said no.
It took over 10 years for them to add fishing to Skyrim. I'm going to say that we're not getting fishing unless a mod does it.
I agree.
We got a little bit of a clarification on the 1,000+ planets and how content within them will be handled. So Todd states that there are individual handcrafted locations, some placed specifically like quest locations, main cities in the game. And then there's a suite of locations generated and placed when you land on a planet. Todd then says that about 10% of these planets in the game have life. So with the 1,000+ planets, at least 100 of them have life on them of some kind. He then says that barren planets will have things generated on them. So he said it's been difficult balancing, but not feeling too gamey with the whole system of like what's too much content versus too little. as in too many abandoned bases, but he feels like it's been dialed in well. There are also planets that have one type of biome and others that have a whole bunch, and planets have traits that you can find out through scanning objects on the world, which you can then gain planetary data and then sell to traders in the galaxy. So I thought that was all really cool kind of non-combat stuff. Like I said, why do we need fishing when I can sell planetary data? That's amazing. So Cog, any thoughts on how Todd is breaking down the procedural content versus the handcrafted stuff? Because there was that point in the direct that's like burned into my head is the only like apprehensive part where they have the dude standing on the hill and I think it was Angela Browder, I think her name is, or Crowder. She says, every journey is different. And then you see standing on the hill, one shot, it's like a dome, and then it goes around the back and out on the same exact spot in a different playthrough, I guess, is an abandoned base. And I'm like, what are you doing with that? The hold up. I was like, I don't want to see less handcrafted stuff. So what do you think of this suite of handcrafted stuff that's generated when you land on a planet?
I think this is why I wasn't worried, because I've always felt that the core game, if you follow that path, is going to have the populated worlds, the life, the density, the richness of a Bethesda game that we kind of know them for. Todd has stated that this stuff, to me, is to generate kind of the illusion of how space truly feels, because there are so many worlds and so many things. But then came down to Matty's concern, which is like, yo, you're just going to be randomly generating, you know what I'm saying? Like everything. And I understood your concern there. But for them to kind of say only 10% of the planets have life on them, to me, represents that balance. And now it puts me in a Mass Effect 2 zone, which was controversial at the time, right? But it was like, hey, you need these, you want to make these type of guns or this type of, whatever it is that just essential resource that for something that you truly want, yo, you're going to have to go out there in these planets. And this to me is the Mass Effect 2 scan planet drone, but this time we're more interactive. We can go in there, and then we may have some Mass Effect 1 energy where there is a specific type of biome on that planet. And there may be an abandoned base here and there. But again, when I hear 10%, to me, you are now creating the illusion of space for this other need to facilitate resources and stuff. If you want to play the game in that fashion, I'm not surprisingly worried by this. I'm okay with it. The key is going to be the execution. Like when we go down there, how does it feel? That kind of thing. And for people who like No Man's Sky, there is a joy for going down there and say, okay, I'm chartering this thing, put my flag down on this world. This is a flag that I can get this, and this from, and I can go back here and I can get my mining on. For the people who love the frontier and the exploration, they're going to like that. And the fact that they're going to be some wildlife and biomes in conjunction with that is interesting to me. But I'm curious with you, because this was your biggest point of contention inside the the direct.
I feel like it has a chance of being settlement mode side quests on steroids is how I would define it. Like, you at first kind of excited by like, oh, I can go here, I'll mark another settlement on your map, and you're finding more and more and more. I got to protect this one over here. And then the luster wears off very quickly, and you start to see the same setups. Like, oh, I'm worrying. Like we saw in the direct, like, you go to abandoned science tower. Like when I started to see the generic names like science tower, abandoned base, I was just like, okay, like normally, you walk up to a building in Fallout 3, the Dunwich building. It's like, okay, this is a place. And what's going to happen is, I know Todd said the fear about gaminess, but what happens is when I see that, when I land on a planet, I could totally see a reality where I land, walk to a base, and it just says science base. And I'm like, oh, that generic ass name means that this isn't a planet with new content. In my spaceship I go. I'm out. That's it.
Science base. I like
That's
that.
it. And I could totally see that being a reality if they really don't tune it down. And I get it, because this is where the quantity can betray the game. This idea of a vast galaxy is clearly a feature to them, right? It's not like having barren planets is this drawback. Like they want the barren planets, which is fine. But the ones that have life, I fear now that we're like, okay, about 100 of these planets have life. what do we do if like 50 of them only have meaningful content? Think about that. You've got 1,000 other planets there that might have nothing for you or samey content for you. It's going to be something I really have to feel out. But there's now, after like the third time explaining it, I just realized there's no real way around this discomfort I have until I play it. And it all comes down to balance. If you can keep that blissful ignorance, my head is deep in the sand and I have no frigging clue what's going on, you're going to win. You're going to win all day with me. But if I start to catch on to that, and I start to skip around, hop, skip, and a jump around the galaxy until I find a location that actually has like Harvard science base, it's like, oh, okay, what's this? Then we might have a little bit of a problem. But we'll see. We'll see ultimately. For me, this is the price you pay for the scale the game is at. They got to fill because the other alternative is no generated content. You are just hopping around from planet to planet. Nothing. Which again.
Is Mass Effect. Which is Mass Effect, where you can only access 4 or 5 planets. You know, the major ones is the only ones that have any story content, right? So to me, the fact that they're fighting for this feature, to me, shows the NASA punk, shows the kind of based in the foundation of reality of the solar systems and the galaxy, of that not every planet is inhabitable like that. And we don't want it to be just the hub world experience. But to your point, does this technology sacrifice the individualism that we may love them for with, you know what I'm saying, with the rich story planets that we know how they do, right? Yeah. And that's a valid concern. I don't think what you're saying is invalid. And we have to see. It's one of those things, because this is a new tech. This is a very ambitious thing that they're doing, right? How does it land? That we do not know. So yeah, it's a good call out.
Comes down to, I guess, off the planet management, as in, if I can just, you know, in Mass Effect, you can zoom, scan, and immediately, you know, I can land here and get something, or I'm just going to get resources, which I believe they showed in a direct. And if it truly is like Mass Effect in that way, this won't be a problem at all. Okay. At all. Because then I can just pick and choose. And I know me, I'm just going to hunt down the individual content that's been handcrafted.
That's how I looked at this, man. It was always Mass Effect 2, throw the probe. Remember how they killed Mass Effect? The Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2 haters always say, oh, probe identified. You know, they're saying not only
part of the game personally.
I loved it too. It was relaxing. I got my research, and sometimes you had anomaly detected, right? Remember? And then you go down or whatever. But that was very rare. Todd is saying, yo, we're giving you the ability to go to the planet. You don't just have, you can scan, you can choose to, you see it and not, or you can choose to get the resource you want and actually go to the planet. I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? But some may not. But it's going to be the execution. It's literally going to be the execution. But I will say this for people, because I'm a No Man's Sky guy. There are some people who love the ability to be able to go anywhere and actually do the thing and run around that planet and feel like, yo, an uncharted place that I've been to, kind of thing. So we're going to see. It's execution. We got to see.
Absolutely. So with that, we move into land vehicles and mounting creatures, which there will be no mounting creatures, but Todd does say that the boost pack is the main form of transportation and references lower gravity planets being a special experience, and also no land vehicles. Any disappointment, sir?
A little. Okay. As a fan of, you know, you miss the Mako and little things like that to move around on a planet. You know, it would have been kind of cool. I would have missed. I'm glad. I think this was Paris that asked that question. So I'm glad he asked that, because that, for Mass Effect guys, we do kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing. But to me, Starfield has made the creative decision. This is ship flight and ship combat are their priorities, as opposed to running around on a planet like Mass Effect with the Mako stuff.
To me, that's just an expansion waiting to happen, like getting your own land vehicle and doing some type of missions with it. To me, that's just waiting to be made. So
good one. I like that.
Companions. Todd says you don't have to have companions join you. There are actually perks that are available for your skills, that you can have for individual playthroughs that are supporting solo play. Crewmates can get angry with you based off decisions that you're making throughout the story, and you can actually leave them behind, but according to the way Todd put it, this is me inferring it. It doesn't sound like you can necessarily like kill your crewmates, for example. He says that there are 4 main Constellation companions that have quest lines and romance, and that you can technically have a full robot ship, and mentions that there are robots beyond Vasco. So I like that latter part about like more robots beyond Vasco, because I didn't even think of that. But yeah, Cog, what do you make of some of the companion information here? Only 4. I don't know how I feel about that. Kind of a short list, but if they're more meaningful and deep, long-term storytelling here, could be great. But what do you make of the updates on companions?
Yeah, I would have liked more. I'll be honest. I would have liked more companions. That would have been a thing for me. I'm all about the romance, though. So for me, it's like, because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you could romance in Outer Worlds, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. Like, it wasn't that. You can help Parvati with hers.
You can help Parvati get into a romance, but you personally don't romance any of your party members.
Right. And I'm listening, we traveling the galaxy all the way. I'm getting all these sandwiches for you, and you don't want to. And we saw some of them after dark dialogues, post situations. It was kind of funny. Take you around the stars. Woo, that was. Listen, we gotta have some fun out here. It's the great frontier, lonely place.
I'm very indifferent towards video game romance. Like, I understand for writers, like if I'm, I would personally not choose to write romance if it meant I could expand the core tenets of the game. As in, if you're focused on what looks to be choice-driven gameplay, where you can convince someone of something to maybe like work your way into a dungeon or what have you, like a lot of choice, and that requires a lot of dialogue. If they were looking at that versus like, can you bang someone, I would choose the former personally, just because I feel that creates the more meaningful experience. Now, I'm not disrespecting my romance bros out there who love to get close to their favorite game characters. For me, even in my teenage years, like I just never clicked with that stuff. I don't know if there's something wrong with me, but it's just never been my cup of tea. To me, the most impactful romance were in KOTOR.
Okay.
And in the Outer Worlds with Parvati.
Interesting.
Only 2 I can think of that I was like, that was amazing. And I think it's because both times they were storytelling decisions that were more beyond just like, hey, you're kind of hot. Like, let's do this thing, right? Like it was more than that. Like it was in Parvati's case, a very humanizing story on an angle that we don't see in much mass media exposure. And I think me being younger, I think what happened in KOTOR was more of a like, with the Jedi code, kind of breaking that, and answering your true feelings in your heart. That was my takeaway from it all. So to me, I think romance is more of a narrative tool that should be scarcely used, not a mechanic in RPGs. So that's how I approach it. But I personally, when I saw that, I was like, okay, cool. Like Fallout 4 didn't need romance either. The screen would fade to black. You just use your imagination, and then you fade back into the game.
I still think they're going to do the fade. I don't know if they're going to have a full-on.
No, don't go full Cyberpunk, bro. That takes away. Yeah. That's the other thing, man. That's the other thing. Now we're getting too carried away. Cyberpunk, I remember people were like hyping up, like, yo, they got dick physics, man. Isn't this a lit game? I was like, now you see what happened when the game launched. I'm a defender of that game. Everyone knows that. I love that game. But now you see, have you not learned? Put your penis away. Think about your games a little more without that, and recognize that these things are taking away from you're telling me that someone's day job for months was working on dick physics, and that's okay.
Are you implying meat on the table hurt the developers?
Yes, I am. It was not the shareholders. It was the dicks. Thank you very much.
Shout out to the meat on the table. Shout out to those brave souls.
Yeah, man, they worked hard. Imagine someone walking in. You're like just hunched over your computer, just slowly doing the model for. Oh man, God bless. God bless.
He out here doing the Lord's work. Oh, that was funny. Continue.
Space radio. It was confirmed that there is one local radio in a specific location. So no like Fallout radio jamming as you go around, but a location will have it. So my prediction is New Atlantis. I imagine that the biggest city is going to have the radio station.
Agreed. I think New Atlantis makes sense.
We got some extra information on ships. Todd said if you want to modify a ship, you have to spend credits to register it to a system. Otherwise, you can just fly it around, but you can't actually modify the parts through it. He said all ships in the game are built using this very system, and that the end game actually plays a huge factor with the spaceships, and that he has to wait and see on whether or not getting caught with contraband actually leads to a negative response. So, we saw that in the opening parts. They scanned you for contraband, and we don't know what happens after that. So Todd was tight-lipped on that, but otherwise, looks like spaceships kind of like an endgamey thing. And I'm very keen because he also said this about Outpost, which we'll talk about in a moment here. But any thoughts on spaceships, modification, contraband, any of that stuff?
This is a part of the game I'm going to be very invested in. This is the part for me because I want the ship design, already going with my Battle of the Planet style ship. I already know in my mind what it's going to look like. And, there's a part, the ship combat is going to be huge for me. It's a genre that I used to love that a lot of games don't do anymore. And I think Elite Dangerous does and stuff like that. But, what Starfield is really romantic for me is that as great as those ship combat games are, you do want to get out of the ship. And most of those games you can't. You're stuck in this is that type of game. Shout out to Chorus. It's an amazing game in Game Pass right now. Go check that out. Great ship combat, amazing storyline. But the coming out of it, and that's what Starfield is doing, something that I've never done before. So I'm going to be investing in that. The designing, also the smuggling aspect, contraband aspect, playing like a pirate, boarding people's ship is one of the greatest features. It's the feature I didn't know I needed in games. That is going to be for me and then I like that section there was a section in the direct where he was like, your character was built around being affiliated with a specific religion or ideology. And there was a group of clusters that ran down on you. They had a fleet. And it was like, yo, da, 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 da. And one of the choices I read is like, we're of this ideology. And because you had that be able to be selected because you was part of that. And that got that person out. But imagine if you wasn't, you'd have got ran down on. I like that. That's a part of space that doesn't get done a lot in games. And I'm a Star Fox guy. So this is like Star Fox, Elite Dangerous, Wing Commander in my Bethesda game. Oh, I'm going to spend so much time on this part. Yeah. It's super exciting to me.
Absolutely. Same here. He spoke about on side quests, saying that there are randomly generated side quests in the game, but they do not replace the focus ones, which are the star here. So that was nice to see after everything with the planets that we just discussed.
Yes.
Outposts. He said you can connect outposts between planets that will shuttle cargo. The outpost can actually generate economy for your player. And he emphasizes this here is also not an early player system, much like spaceship building, which kind of got me a little excited.
This is where I think the procedural planets come in. I think this is where they want you to get creative with these outposts. You got your resource, you're moving things to and fro, and especially with the key resources that you need for either the weapons or the things that you truly want in this game that are going to be very resource dependent. This is where I think this is going to create this whole metagame in Starfield, and thus those planets become populated by us and our outposts. That's my prediction as to one way these procedural planets can be utilized.
As a lover of Fallout 4, one of my biggest hopes was with the settlement mode that, you have that happiness rating. And I always thought it'd be a really cool idea if as you get maximum happiness in the settlement or whatever they do here for the outpost, that it would make sense people would start to hear about the place you've built. And I always said that it makes more sense for Fallout 4 because it's a smaller game. But to convey my idea, each settlement would have their own, I'd call it special settler that would show up and either be really proficient in a particular thing for that settlement, or they'd show up with a unique item. Maybe they'd be a vendor, or they have a unique quest, so that upon rebuilding, it felt like you had reached the top and that the reputation was so big. This person of importance came to your civilization that you had built. And I hope that they do that. It doesn't have to be for everyone, but I hope they do something like that where it's not, you just have to bring the people and kind of shuttle them to these planets, but that almost Fallout Shelter, you can, this sounds so pie in the sky, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna get carried away with it. You can bring people there and have kids, and families will grow there, and the population will grow. You kind of have to manage things from afar. Because Fallout Shelter, like low-key great management game, like a resource management game, really good. So I hope they take some of that and kind of implement it into the outposts and the management of them all. Because what I'm seeing with Starfield, if it really does succeed, is obviously we know what a Bethesda RPG is, but you could have a whole spaceship game in here. You could have a whole outpost sim kind of management game here. And it reminds me, I'm going to give it some roses, Cog. Reminds me a bit of Yakuza, where you have these games within games that create an identity where maybe you don't like the turn-based combat, but you like that management mode where you're going through the shareholders meetings and whatnot. So I hope that Starfield does that better than Ichiban.
I knew the slander was coming. I knew it was coming. But I'm with you on that because this is why I'm so open-minded to the procedural part, because in true Bethesda-like sensibilities, also remember, like, you're on it with being able to add on to this stuff later with future stuff, like whether it be the Family's Outpost, but also remember from Skyrim, Heartland. Remember the Heartland DLC? And it's like it's all about cultivating and
the Hearthstone. Yeah.
Hearthstone. Yeah. I could see stuff like that with a mini content drop for more things you can do on these planets to make things feel alive, and you're settling and I'm telling you, the potential here for them on DLC and expansions is going to be crazy. I totally can see this in the pipeline. This game, I'm telling you, if they knock out the initial landing, the potential for us playing this type of game could be huge. They just got to knock it out.
Just got to knock it out. That's all it's hanging on, execution. Last set of questions here. We're done in a rapid fire manner, so I just listed all the answers here. Todd did not answer if there were black holes in Starfield. He confirms that Vasco cannot wear a hat. He says that the mobile stuff is in development, there is mobile stuff that's in development at their team that they haven't talked about yet. And to me, as someone who follows Todd Howard, found this to be the most interesting aspect. He was asked about working on a smaller game like Pentiment and said he's interested in bigger worlds. And I got the message he doesn't seem to be into making these smaller projects, which, by the way, this man had the flex of all flexes when he said, when they were asking about smaller games, he went, yeah, well, we do have our mobile division. Fallout Shelter is actually our most played game. I'm like, okay, dude. Okay.
Talk to him, God, Howard. Talk to him.
Good.
But small is joy bigger than your whole team.
Yeah, right. He literally was like, yeah, I work on small games. They end up being our biggest ones. I actually, as much as I would love to see what a small Todd Howard game would look like this more intimate project, this is a project of two things. Number one, this man has so much say in the building. He does not need to go find creative freedom. As Cog argued earlier, he is the creative freedom. He gets to do the Indiana Jones game. He gets to do Starfield next. He gets to do, I think the only time he got bullied into something was probably Fallout 76. One time in his whole career. And even then, he probably played a part in it. But point being is this is the product of a man who's at the absolute top of the ladder. But number two, we're in an industry where I hear much of complaints about the AAA game development space, which I understand is rigorous and difficult, not easy to work in. I get it, right? But I love that we actually have a top guy who wants to make these types of games, who is saying like, no, we don't. Because I feel like all I hear is I'm going to be a little harsh here. The whining, complaining, like y'all didn't go to college and get a whole ass degree to go and pursue this. There are people who have extreme gratitude for what they do. And I get it, because for some people in game development, it is thankless work. And I sympathize with them greatly. But I love that we got a guy here who genuinely wants to be there making the big worlds to live in. Like, he enjoys playing those types of things, so he wants to make those types of things. I just feel like far too often we've got away from like, this is a passion, creatively driven industry, and that you can have that in AAA production. And seeing Todd, he's not the only one, but seeing Todd say it and kind of shutting down like, oh no, I actually would like to make the smaller game. Like just being like, nah, I want to make the worlds you live in. That's because that's not an easy task. Like, he's not just making the next open world game alongside his team. They're making like, hey, ever since Skyrim, it was the best and worst thing to happen to them, because it changed how they look at their games. When they make their games now, they take so long because it's not just, all right, let's make another game. It's, okay, our games get insane replay rate as a single player title. How do we make the next game have that same quality beyond modding? How do we do that? And so that's an astounding level of pressure. And he wants that. I think that's awesome to see. So yeah, I'm going to kiss his ass a little bit on this one. But Cog, any thoughts on the final set of rapid fire questions here for Todd Howard?
Yeah, I thought about you specifically with that quote because, I was surprised. I was surprised because, like we said, most of these developers who make these huge games that we love, you always hear about that change of pace. I need to do something different. I need to do something smaller. I don't want to do this. And it was kind of refreshing to hear Todd say, no, like the games I would work, I'm drawn to the big game. So to me, it's like he just yearns for that. And that it's refreshing to see as a person who selfishly loves his games, right? It's like, yo, like you want to make the next big thing. And then that's super dope to me. So salute to him. I love that type of stuff. And hopefully we get, another one out of him. He's not going to be around forever, but, maybe we get one or two more. And I love to see creators kind of go for it like that. And I just like the fact that he enjoys it as much as we enjoy it. And that is rare. And again, in fairness to those who don't want to do the video, I get it. Like some people get burnt out and they're like, yo, I want to do something different, but not Todd. Todd is like, yo, what's the next thing? And if I do something next, it's going to be huge scale. That's pretty cool.
So with that, that's your Xbox news for the week. Naturally, due to the volume of write-ins we had throughout the entire show, we're just going to wrap things up with the Game Pass pick of the week, just to, again, try to keep the show as tidy as we can here. So, Cog, you have the Game Pass pick of the week this week. What is your selection, sir?
So, man, there's a lot of Sega love in the building, and people were thinking about acquiring my people. And look, I've been playing the Ally like so much. I'm in love with this device, and I'm doing all these big games. I'm doing all the, the testing, the tweaking, the performance, and getting all the 120 frames out of certain game. But then I said, you know what? I got a handheld. Right? I got a handheld. I got to go to what traditionally I would play on a handheld prior to this big graphical. So I had to fire up my Sega love. I had to test Streets of Rage 4, and it's been a while. They have added so much since I've been away. Besides, like, they had this huge balance patch. Obviously, they had the Nightmare mode, but then they add this huge balance patch with like 300 moves. They had a Mania mode, custom survival modes. And I'm going to be honest with you, Matty, like I was playing it, but playing it the traditional way, the arcade mode, and then the new, like almost like the new game plus mode with the new characters and all that other stuff. But I never tried the Nightmare survival mode. Yo, Matty, this is my favorite new mode. Oh my God, this mode is amazing. So what they do is they put you in like all these different locales. First, they may start you off in a ring, right? And they'll have like hazardous environments where you can punch people, bounce off, they get electrocuted, that kind of stuff. It's various enemies. And you have a whole bunch of movesets, but what's the beauty is you clear each round, right? And you're in this locale. Then at the end, they're like, okay, you can pick up, you have like choices of 3 things to pick. All right, you pick up this thing and all your weapons do way more damage. Or like, every time you do your super moves, you do it stronger, but you won't regain health back. And there's this trade-off, and it gets harder, more difficult, more enemy variety. The locales are beautiful. It always changes up. Then you can earn more movesets to your characters that then you can take into the base game. Then they got way more customization options with the suits. They've added Streets of Rage 3 characters. Yo, Matty, this mode, I was just there to test it out. This has been 2 days later. I can't stop playing Streets of Rage. They got new achievements for it. Okay. Bro, Streets of Rage 4. And then shout out to the legendary Sega legend, Yuzo Koshiro, one of the greatest soundtracks in gaming. Like, bro, he's on this thing. The beats are amazing. It's a gym, it's a Cog held as well gym playlist. Mainstay. Special. Woo! Oh yeah, bro!
The album was purchased.
The album was purchased. I had to give. I support the devs.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? But bro, like, give Streets of Rage 4 a crack, but specifically survival mode. Try it. It's a nice romp. It won't take up so much of your time, and it's challenging to see how far you can get. It remembers your progress. So good. And the move sets now, they got charge moves. They got all these new, it feels like a brand new game. You got to check it out.
Nah, dude, I remember playing it a couple of years ago, and it's still a great game. So the fact that it's still in Game Pass is also awesome. It's been there for a long while.
A long time. I notice all the Sega games don't see that.
It's interesting because like the Temu, who also made this, I mean, Ninja Turtles, like I warned people, one of my Game Pass pick weeks, a couple weeks ago, got plucked out. So something about Streets of Rage getting a lot of play, or something's beneficial there. Where
I wonder who's the publisher.
I think it was Dotemu.
No, I mean, where they actually, got the title. I'm being messy. You're right. You're right to the letter of the law. Yeah. I'm just being messy because I'm being Sega.
You're right. That was a good point. That went right over my head.
It's dope, man. It's dope.
So our Game Pass pick of the week, Streets of Rage 4. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to wrap up a meaty episode 130 of Defining Duke and Xbox Podcast. COG, the hashtag. DDFTC. Yeah, it sounds about right.
Sound like it, right? Yeah, like this is just FTC all day.
Yeah. So we're going to go with that. Ladies and gentlemen, you got this deep into the episode. You want to let us know your thoughts on what's going on here between Microsoft, the FTC, and hopefully I'm going to put it out into the ether. We're not too late, that nothing crazy has happened in the meantime. Let us know your thoughts. I'm at G27status on Twitter. COG is at Lord Cognito. Tag us both. Use the hashtag DDFTC so we know you got to the end of the episode. Get your thoughts. If you don't use social media, no problem. Put the hashtag in the comments down below. Let us know your thoughts. We love seeing what you guys thought, gals thought of the episode. With that, COG, any closing thoughts before I wrap this up?
Big, masterful episode. Lots of stuff going on. Can't wait to see what goes on next week. But yeah, man, a lot of good information that we got out of this. So saga continues.
Indeed, it does. Will it be the finale? We shall find out soon. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, take great care of yourselves, and we will see you next time for episode 131 of Defining Duke at Xbox Podcast. Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.